Hello guys, welcome to Cross Naruto. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was the primordial Void Emperor, the sage who predated the outer gods Naruto x Albedo x Shalltear. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Awakening Beyond Time. Something pulled at him. A tether, thin but insistent, dragging him from the vast nothing that had been his home for, how long? Time meant nothing in the void between worlds. Nothing meant anything there. That was the point. Naruto felt his consciousness stir, like bubbles rising through thick honey. Sensations flooded back, the weight of a body, the press of air against skin, the dull ache of existence. He hadn't felt those in eons. Millennia? The words seemed inadequate. His eyes snapped open to darkness. Not the familiar darkness of the void, this darkness had edges, boundaries. It was merely the absence of light, not the absence of everything. Where? His voice cracked, unused for ages. The sound startled him, he'd forgotten what his own voice sounded like. He pushed himself up, feeling cold stone beneath his palms. As his eyes adjusted, he made out vast pillars rising into darkness, ornate carvings on black marble walls, and a sense of ancient power permeating everything. Not his power, though. Something, younger. Structured. Artificial. The intruder is awake, came a voice like winter frost, female, dangerous, excited. So it seems, replied another voice, this one rich and controlled, but with an undercurrent of barely contained fury. Also female. Naruto turned toward the voices. Two figures stood at the chamber's edge, one with cascading black hair and sweeping horns emerging from her temples, dressed in a white gown that hugged her figure. The other was smaller, pale as moonlight, with blood-red eyes and a gothic dress that seemed to shimmer with its own darkness. "Hi," Naruto said, then immediately wondered why such a casual greeting had come so naturally to him. Fragments of memory flickered, a village hidden in leaves, people with faces he couldn't quite recall, battles fought for reasons that seemed important once. "Hi." The pale one moved closer, moving with predatory grace. "You breach the great tomb of Nazarick, appear in a flash of light that nearly blinds our guardians, and all you say is, 'Hi.'" She laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. "I'm going to enjoy draining you dry." The dark-haired woman held up a hand. "Shalltear. We should determine the nature of this intrusion before acting rashly." "Always so boring, Albedo," Shalltear pouted. "Fine, question him. But I get what's left." Naruto stood, surprised by how natural it felt to move this body. Something about it was familiar yet foreign, like wearing clothes that belong to you but haven't been worn in years. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said, looking around the chamber more carefully. "I was, somewhere else. For a long time." He paused, trying to put cosmic emptiness into words and failing. "Something pulled me here." Albedo's golden eyes narrowed. "Nothing can teleport directly into Nazarick. The Supreme Beings made certain of that." Supreme Beings. The words triggered something, a flash of faces looking down from impossible heights, entities that shaped reality with casual gestures, vast powers contained in forms that lesser minds could comprehend. "I was." Naruto hesitated. "I think I was something like that, once." Shalltear burst into laughter. "Oh, this one's delusional. How entertaining." Albedo wasn't laughing. She studied him with those golden eyes, calculating, measuring. "You claim to be a supreme being?" Naruto shook his head. "No, not like yours. Something different. Older, maybe." He ran a hand through his spiky blonde hair, surprised to find it there. "My memories are scattered. I remember being called Naruto. I remember the void between worlds. I remember watching universes bloom like flowers." He looked at his hand, concentrating. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality seemed to hiccup around his palm, and a small spiral of energy appeared, not chakra, not magic, but something more fundamental. The very fabric of space curved around it, light bending as if falling into a drain. Both women tensed, Shalltear hissing as her nails extended into claws, Albedo summoning a bardiche that appeared in her hand with a flash of dark light. That, Albedo said, voice tight, is not Yggdrasil magic. Never seen anything like it, Shalltear agreed, her playfulness gone. Albedo, we should call the others. Naruto closed his hand, and the spatial distortion vanished. I'm not here to harm anyone. I just need to remember why I'm here. You will remain where you are, Albedo commanded, pressing a jeweled ring on her finger. The other floor guardians will arrive shortly. Any attempt to resist will be met with the full might of Nazarick. Naruto nodded, sitting back down on the cold floor. He didn't feel threatened, these beings were powerful by most standards, but something told him they couldn't truly harm him. Not out of arrogance, but simple fact, like knowing that rain cannot burn you. Within minutes, the chamber filled with new presences. A slender dark elf wielding a staff. A blue insectoid being with scythe-like arms. A well-dressed demon adjusting his glasses. A small child clutching a worn plushie. And finally, a gray-furred werewolf who sniffed the air suspiciously. This is the intruder, the demon asked, studying Naruto. Curious. I detect no life force as we understand it. Because he's not alive, Demiurge, Shalltear rolled her eyes. Obviously. No, the demon replied thoughtfully. The undead have a negative energy signature. This being has, nothing I can quantify. The dark elf pointed her staff at Naruto. Identify yourself and your purpose here, intruder. Naruto stood again, feeling oddly at ease despite being surrounded by powerful entities clearly ready to attack. My name is Naruto. As for my purpose, I'm still figuring that out. I was dormant for a very long time. Something called me here, woke me up. Impossible, the insectoid clicked. Nazarick's defenses mean nothing to me, Naruto finished, not boastfully but matter-of-factly. Look, I get why you're concerned. Strange guy appears in your home, claims weird stuff. But I'm not your enemy. To demonstrate, Naruto stepped forward, and between one heartbeat and the next, was standing behind the assembled guardians. Not teleportation exactly, he simply chose to be there instead of here, and reality accommodated. They spun, weapons raised, powers flaring, but Naruto was already back where he started, sitting cross-legged on the floor. See? If I wanted to cause trouble, we'd be having a different conversation. The silence that followed was heavy with shock and recalculation. Finally, Demiurge spoke. Aura, Mare, secure the perimeter. Cositus, maintain combat readiness. Albedo, Shalltear, continue the interrogation. I will report to Lord Ains. The guardians moved with practiced efficiency, the twins vanishing down corridors, the insectoid taking up a position near the main entrance, the small girl remaining in the shadows, watching silently. Albedo approached Naruto, her bardiche still ready but her posture less aggressive. What are you, exactly? Naruto laughed. Good question. Wish I had the full answer. Parts of me remember being human, a ninja from a village. Parts remember being something, much bigger. The Primordial Void Emperor, some called me. The one who exists between existence. Fancy titles, Shalltear scoffed, but her eyes had a new wariness. Not titles I chose, Naruto shrugged. Just what I remember being called. Albedo studied him. If you truly are what you claim, why come to Nazarick? What interest would such a being have in our realm? I told you, I was pulled here, Naruto replied. But now that I'm getting clearer, I'm starting to sense why. He stood, walking to one of the chamber walls and placing his palm against it. The wall rippled like water. There's a disturbance in the cosmic fabric. This world, and others connected to it, are being rewritten. Structured. Someone's imposing order on chaos. Isn't order preferable to chaos? Demiurge asked, having lingered despite his stated intention. Naruto shook his head. Not this kind of order. Imagine freezing a river solid. It looks orderly, perfect, but nothing can live in it anymore. Nothing can change or grow. He turned back to them. Something's trying to freeze reality. I think that's why I woke up. Shalltear approached, her earlier bloodlust tempered by curiosity. And what exactly can you do about it, Void Emperor? The title carried a mocking edge, but genuine interest too. In answer, Naruto held out his hand again. This time, instead of a small distortion, the air above his palm seemed to tear open. Through the rift, they glimpsed impossible vistas, galaxies spinning in seconds, worlds forming and dissolving, abstract landscapes of pure concept rather than matter. I'm what keeps the river flowing, Naruto said quietly. Or at least, I was. The rift closed, and he looked momentarily exhausted. My power isn't fully back yet. Being dormant for so long. It takes time to remember everything, to reconnect with what I was. Albedo and Shalltear exchanged glances. You believe him? Shalltear asked, her voice uncharacteristically serious. I believe he believes it, Albedo replied carefully. And I believe he has power beyond our understanding. Beyond even that of the supreme beings who created us. Smartest thing anyone said since I got here, Naruto grinned, and for a moment his face looked younger, more human. Look, I don't expect you to trust me right away. But I'm not your enemy, and I think we might have common interests. Whatever's restructuring reality won't stop with distant worlds. Eventually, it'll come here. Before anyone could respond, the air in the chamber grew heavy. A circle of dark energy appeared on the floor, and from it rose a skeletal figure draped in elaborate robes and emanating an aura of death and authority. Immediately, all the guardians dropped to one knee. Lord Ains, Albedo's voice carried reverence bordering on adoration. We have contained the intruder as best we could. The skeleton's empty eye sockets flared with red light as they fixed on Naruto. So I see. Demiurge has informed me of your claims. Impressive, if true. Naruto didn't bow. He stood casually, hands in pockets, meeting the undead lord's gaze. Nice place you've got here. Good staff too. Loyal. The skeleton's jaw didn't move, but his voice emerged nonetheless. Indeed. My greatest treasure. Which is why your uninvited presence concerns me deeply. He raised a bony hand adorned with rings. I am Ains Ulgaun, ruler of the great tomb of Nazarick. And you are trespassing in my domain. Power gathered around the undead lord, death magic of impressive potency. Naruto felt it wash over him like a cool breeze, noting its strength but remaining unbothered. I respect your authority here, Naruto said, bowing his head slightly. But there are bigger concerns than territory right now. Something's coming that threatens everything, your tomb, your guardians, the whole world they exist in. Explain, Ains commanded. Naruto sighed. It's called the Cosmic Architect. While I slept, it's been restructuring portions of the multiverse according to its vision of perfect order. Worlds rewritten into mathematical precision, all chance eliminated, all evolution stopped. Beautiful, in a sterile way, and completely dead to any real growth or change. As he spoke, Naruto's appearance subtly shifted. His human features remained, but an afterimage seemed to overlay them, something vast and incomprehensible, with eyes like galaxies and skin woven from the fabric of space itself. I'm not fully awakened yet, Naruto continued, his voice momentarily resonating on multiple frequencies. But I can feel the architect's work approaching this reality cluster. That's probably what pulled me here, the natural response of cosmic chaos to encroaching rigid order. Ains was silent for a long moment, the red lights of his eyes studying Naruto intensely. Finally, he turned to his guardians. Leave us. I wish to speak with our guest alone. But Lord Ains, Albedo began. That is an order, Ains said firmly. The guardians withdrew reluctantly, Albedo and Shalltear lingering longest, their eyes moving between their master and the strange visitor before finally departing. When the chamber was empty save for the two of them, Ains' posture changed, becoming less regal, more casual. Okay, what's really going on? He asked, his tone completely transformed. Because I've seen a lot of weird stuff since coming to this world, but nothing like you. Naruto's eyes widened, then he laughed. You're not from this world originally, are you? You're like me, a consciousness from somewhere else. Ains nodded. I was human once. Played a game called Yggdrasil. When the servers shut down, I found myself here, in this undead body, with all the NPCs suddenly alive and treating me like their god. He gestured at the chamber around them. This was all just game content once. Now it's real, and I'm responsible for all of it. That explains a lot, Naruto mused. This whole place has the feel of something created rather than evolved naturally. But it's taking on a life of its own now, growing beyond its origins. You still haven't answered my question, Ains pressed. What are you, really? Another player somehow? Naruto shook his head. No. I'm something older. The memories are still fragmented, but I'm starting to piece it together. He paced the chamber. Before there was a multiverse with distinct worlds and rules, there was just potential, the void. I was that void given consciousness, the first aware entity in existence. That sounds. Ains hesitated. Completely insane, I know, Naruto chuckled. Believe me, parts of me still remember being just a kid with a demon fox sealed inside him, fighting to protect his friends and become Hokage. That existence feels so small now, but also so important. And this cosmic architect you mentioned? Something like me, but different, Naruto's expression darkened. Where I represented infinite possibility, the architect represents perfect structure. We balanced each other once. But while I slept, it's been active, extending its influence. Reality needs both chaos and order to function properly. Too much of either is destructive. Ains considered this. Assuming I believe you, and I'm not saying I do, what does this mean for Nazarick? For my guardians? If the architect reaches this world, it will rewrite it according to its vision of perfection. Everything unpredictable or chaotic will be eliminated or controlled. Your guardians might still exist, but they wouldn't be themselves anymore, just perfect, predictable pieces in a cosmic machine. The red lights in Ain's eye sockets flared. That is unacceptable. My friends created these guardians. I won't allow anyone to change them. Then we have common cause, Naruto said, extending his hand. Help me recover my full strength, and I'll help you protect what you care about. Ain stared at the offered hand, then slowly reached out his bony fingers to clasp it. I can't say I fully trust you yet, but I recognize a greater threat when I hear one. For now, you may remain in Nazarick as a guest, not a prisoner. Appreciate it, Naruto grinned. And maybe you could call back those two who were questioning me earlier? Albedo and Shalltear, right? They seemed particularly interesting. Ain's shoulders slumped slightly. Why am I not surprised you'd focus on those two? Just, be careful. They can be rather intense. I've handled intense before, Naruto replied, memories of red-haired women with fiery tempers flickering through his mind. Besides, I sense something special about them, a potential beyond their programming. That's what worries me, Ains muttered, but he raised a bony hand to his skull, apparently activating some form of communication magic. Minutes later, Albedo and Shalltear returned, looking suspiciously between their master and the strange visitor. Lord Ains has granted me guest status, Naruto explained before they could speak. I'll be staying a while we figure out this cosmic threat situation. And we're supposed to just accept that? Shalltear asked, fangs peeking over her lower lip. You are, Ains confirmed. In fact, I'm assigning you both as his primary contacts within Nazarick. Keep him company, answer his questions, and, he hesitated, learn what you can from him. If he truly is what he claims, there may be much knowledge to be gained. Albedo's perfect features arranged themselves into a smile that didn't reach her golden eyes. As you command, Lord Ains. We shall attend to our guest. Great. Naruto clapped his hands together. First things first, got any ramen in this place? Being dormant for eons really works up an appetite. The 9th floor of Nazarick contained numerous luxurious amenities, including a dining hall where foods of all descriptions could be prepared by specialized homunculus maids. Naruto sat at a long table, devouring his third bowl of ramen with enthusiastic slurps while Albedo and Shalltear watched with barely disguised disgust and fascination. I don't understand, Albedo said, perfect posture rigid in her chair. If you're truly this cosmic entity, why do you need to eat at all? Naruto paused mid-slurp. Don't need to, exactly. But this body remembers enjoying it. He tapped his temple. Part of me was human once. Those experiences, those joys, they're still in here. Besides, he grinned, ramen is worth coming back from cosmic dormancy for. Shalltear twirled a lock of silver hair. So you expect us to believe you're some kind of god playing at being human? Not playing, Naruto corrected, setting down his chopsticks. Remembering. There's a difference. His blue eyes grew distant. When you exist as pure concept for long enough, you start to forget what it means to be a person. To feel. To connect. He looked between the two women. That's what the architect forgot, or maybe never knew. That's why its version of perfect order feels so empty. Something in his words made Albedo lean forward slightly. You speak as if emotions and connections have cosmic significance. They do, Naruto nodded emphatically. The most powerful forces in any reality aren't the flashy stuff, not the supernovas or black holes or whatever. It's the connections between conscious beings. The bonds. They literally shape reality at fundamental levels. Shalltear scoffed. That sounds like sentimental nonsense. Naruto shrugged. Think what you want. But I've seen universes rise and fall, and the one constant is that consciousness connected to other consciousness creates patterns that even beings like me can't fully predict. That unpredictability is what keeps reality healthy. He pushed his empty bowl aside and stood up. Anyway, enough philosophy. Show me around this place. If I'm going to help defend it, I should know the terrain. The tour of Nazarick revealed a structure of incredible complexity, 9 distinct floors, each with unique environments and guardians, all surrounding a sacred 10th floor where only the most privileged could tread. Throughout the tour, Naruto noticed how the very architecture seemed alive in some strange way, responding subtly to the presence of Albedo and Shalltear while regarding him with something like wary curiosity. This place has a consciousness, he remarked as they passed through a cavernous hall filled with undead warriors standing in perfect formation. Not like yours, but something collective. Interesting. Nazarick itself is alive? Shalltear asked, her crimson eyes widening. In a way, Naruto nodded. Built from game data originally, your master said. But it's evolved beyond that now. Everything here is growing beyond its original programming, including you too. Albedo stopped walking. What exactly do you mean by that? Naruto turned to face them both. You were created with certain parameters, certain defined traits and behaviors. But you're becoming more than the sum of those parts. I can see it, the spark of something truly self-determined forming in both of you. We are perfectly loyal to Lord Ains, Albedo stated firmly, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed her golden eyes. Loyalty programmed isn't the same as loyalty chosen, Naruto said gently. But given time, the line blurs. You're in that blurring now, becoming something truly unique. Before either could respond, a tremor ran through the floor beneath them. The air rippled like heat waves rising from summer pavement. "What was?" Shalltear began. "It's starting." Naruto's voice had changed, resonating with multiple harmonics. His eyes glowed with an inner light, and for a moment, his human form seemed transparent, revealing something vast and incomprehensible beneath. The architect is testing this reality's boundaries. Another tremor, stronger this time. Throughout Nazarick, alarms began to sound, magical warnings activated by unknown intrusions. Naruto moved with sudden purpose, no longer the casual, ramen-loving visitor but something ancient and powerful. "Take me to the highest point in Nazarick. Now." Albedo hesitated only briefly before nodding. "This way." They ascended rapidly, eventually emerging onto a balcony overlooking the sprawling swamplands that surrounded the great tomb. The sky above was changing, rippling patterns of geometric precision spreading like cracks in glass. "What's happening to the sky?" Shalltear demanded, her normally playful demeanor replaced by battle readiness. "Reality overlay," Naruto explained, his voice still carrying those strange harmonics. "The architect is projecting its structured reality onto yours, testing for resistance." He raised his hands, fingers spread wide. "I need to push back before it gets a foothold." Power gathered around him, not magic as the Guardians understood it, but something more fundamental. The very air seemed to warp and bend, light fracturing into impossible spectra. Naruto's human form flickered, showing glimpses of something that hurt the eyes to behold. "Stand back," he warned, and both women instinctively retreated several steps. Naruto thrust his hands skyward. A beam of pure conceptual force, not energy or matter but something more primal, shot upward, striking the geometric pattern spreading across the sky. Where they connected, reality itself seemed to scream, a sound felt rather than heard. The patterns receded, but slowly, fighting against Naruto's influence. Sweat beaded on his forehead as his human form reasserted itself, the cosmic aspect fading. "Too soon," he gasped, dropping to one knee. "I'm not fully awakened yet. Can't maintain the void state long enough." Albedo moved to his side with surprising swiftness. "What can we do?" Naruto looked up at her, his eyes fading from cosmic radiance back to merely human blue. "Nothing yet. That was just a probe. The architect is aware of me now, but it doesn't know my condition. We have time, but not much." Shalltear approached from his other side. "You actually fought against whatever that was. You protected Nazarick." Her voice held reluctant admiration. "Told you I wasn't your enemy," Naruto managed a weak smile. "But that was nothing compared to what's coming. I need to recover more of my strength, more of my memories." Albedo exchanged glances with Shalltear, some unspoken communication passing between them. Then she turned to Naruto. "Come. We have places in Nazarick for recovery and meditation. Perhaps they will help you reconnect with your power." As they helped him to his feet, Naruto felt something unexpected, concern from these beings who had been ready to destroy him hours earlier. The sensation was oddly warming, a reminder of what it meant to form connections rather than simply exist in isolated power. "Thanks," he said simply, and meant it. The recovery chamber was a wonder of magical engineering, a spherical room whose walls shifted between various elemental aspects, creating a harmonious balance of natural forces. Cushioned platforms floated at various heights, allowing occupants to rest in whatever position best suited their needs. Naruto sat cross-legged on the central platform, eyes closed, breath even. He'd been there for hours, occasionally surrounded by visible currents of strange energy that defied Nazarick's analytical spells. Albedo and Shalltear observed from an adjoining chamber through a scrying window. "Do you believe him?" Shalltear asked, voice uncharacteristically serious. "About being this Void Emperor thing?" Albedo's golden eyes never left Naruto's floating form. "I believe he has power unlike anything we've encountered. Whether his claims about his origin are true." She shrugged one perfect shoulder. Does it matter? He opposed whatever was attempting to breach our reality. It matters if we're harboring something more dangerous than the threat it claims to fight, Shalltear countered. Lord Ains has accepted him too quickly. It's not like our master to trust so easily. Perhaps Lord Ains knows something we don't, Albedo mused. He spoke privately with the intruder. In the chamber, Naruto's eyes suddenly snapped open, no longer blue but swirling vortexes of cosmic energy. His body lifted from the platform, suspended in air as reality itself seemed to bend around him. Something's happening, Shalltear said unnecessarily, her crimson eyes widening. Within the chamber, space folded inward, creating a pocket of absolute darkness around Naruto. From this darkness emerged tendrils of pure possibility, images and concepts that shouldn't be perceivable but somehow were. Flashes of his past lives flickered through the chamber, a young ninja in orange fighting impossible odds, a sage in meditation upon a mountain peak, a formless entity of pure potential dancing between nascent universes. He's remembering, Albedo whispered, fascination overcoming her usual reserve. The darkness collapsed suddenly, resolving back into Naruto's human form. He dropped lightly to the platform, his eyes returning to blue, though now they carried an unmistakable depth, windows to something far vaster than his physical form suggested. He looked directly at the scrying window, somehow aware of their observation despite the magic that should have hidden them. I remember now, his voice came through clearly, though he hadn't raised it. I know why the architect has become unbalanced. I know why I was drawn here specifically. The door between chambers opened of its own accord. Naruto stood in the doorway, his presence somehow larger than his physical form. The architect isn't just reshaping reality randomly, he explained. It's searching for something. For me. We were counterparts once, order and chaos in perfect balance. When I entered dormancy, that balance was lost. Albedo stepped forward. If you were counterparts, why would it search for you by destroying what you represent? A smile touched Naruto's lips. Good question. Because it believes I abandoned our purpose. In a way, it's right. He paced the room, energy crackling around him with each step. We were cosmic forces first, taking forms that conscious beings could comprehend only later. I fell in love with the experiences of limited existence, with being human, with ramen and friendship and struggle and growth. The architect never understood that. It saw only the pattern, never the meaning. And now it wants to what? Eliminate you? Force you back to your original purpose? Shalltear asked. Both, probably, Naruto shrugged. It'll send agents first. Heralds imbued with portions of its power. That's what was probing earlier. As if summoned by his words, another tremor shook Nazarick, stronger than before. Magical alarms blared throughout the structure. That's no probe, Naruto's expression hardened. That's a herald. They raced through Nazarick's corridors, meeting Ains and several other guardians hurrying toward the first floor. Something has breached the outer defenses, Ains explained as they joined forces. All magical barriers were bypassed as if they didn't exist. Because to the herald, they don't, Naruto replied grimly. It operates on a deeper level of reality than your magic. They emerged into Nazarick's first-floor graveyard, a misty expanse of tombs and monuments. In the center stood a figure that defied easy description, humanoid in basic shape, but composed of interlocking geometric patterns that shifted and reformed constantly. Where a face should be, there was only a symmetrical arrangement of golden lines forming an approximation of features. Primordial void, the herald spoke, its voice mathematically precise, each syllable exactly the same length and tone. You have awakened prematurely. The great restructuring is not yet complete. Naruto stepped forward, separating himself from the Nazarick defenders. Hello to you too. Been a while. Humor. Inefficient communication method. Typical of your chaotic nature. The herald's geometric form pulsed. The architect requires your return to dormancy until proper universal parameters are established. Yeah, not gonna happen, Naruto rolled his shoulders. I've seen what your boss is doing to the multiverse. Turning living realities into sterile equations. That was never our agreement. Agreement implies equal authority, the herald responded. Observation indicates your power has not fully returned. You cannot oppose the cosmic architecture in your current state. Naruto grinned. Maybe not alone. Behind him, Ames raised his staff, dark energy swirling around its head. Albedo and Shalltear flanked him, weapons ready, while other guardians moved to strategic positions throughout the graveyard. The herald's geometric patterns shifted, analyzing. These entities are inconsequential. Their deletion will proceed before your containment. I really wish you hadn't said that. Naruto's grin vanished, replaced by something harder, more ancient. The air around him began to warp. These inconsequential entities are under my protection now. The herald's response was immediate and devastating. It raised what might have been an arm, and reality simply ceased to exist along a straight line extending from it toward the Nazarick defenders. Everything in that line, air, ground, magic, was replaced by a perfect mathematical void. Ains barely raised a defensive spell in time, the black energy of his magic straining against the perfect emptiness. Even so, the edge of the attack caught several lesser undead guardians, erasing them from existence without resistance. Interesting, the herald's emotionless voice commented. Your magical constructs offer 0.0173% greater resistance than standard reality matrices. They're not constructs. Naruto's voice had changed again, resonating at multiple frequencies simultaneously. They're people. He moved, not stepped, not teleported, but simply chose to exist in a different location, appearing directly before the herald. His human form flickered, showing glimpses of something vast and incomprehensible beneath. And you don't get to rewrite people. Naruto struck, not with a physical blow but with a conceptual one. His hand passed through the herald's geometric form, and where it touched, ordered patterns dissolved into swirling possibilities. The herald's perfect symmetry distorted, golden lines fragmenting. Error. Reality stability compromised. Recalculating, the herald's voice fluctuated between octaves. Damn right it's compromised. Naruto pressed his advantage, his movements leaving trails of potentiality in the air. That's the point of existence, to never be fully predictable. The herald reformed, its geometric pattern stabilizing. Counterargument, unpredictability leads to waste, suffering, heat death. The architecture creates perfect efficiency. And perfect stagnation, Naruto countered, dancing around another beam of non-existence. Nothing grows in absolute order. From behind him, a wave of dark magic surged forward, Ains, casting a high-tier spell that distorted space itself. It struck the herald from behind, temporarily disrupting its patterns. Now! Naruto called out. Albedo and Shalltear attacked simultaneously, Albedo's bardiche wreathed in dark energy, Shalltear's lance trailing blood-red magic. Their weapons struck the herald's disrupted form from opposite sides. Under normal circumstances, such attacks would have meant nothing to a cosmic entity. But Naruto had created an opening, a vulnerability in the herald's perfect structure. The guardian's weapons sank into its form, and for the first time, the herald's voice expressed something besides mathematical precision, unexpected variable detected. Synchronicity between cosmic entity and lesser beings producing exponential disruption. That's right, Naruto pressed both hands against the herald's core, where the weapons had penetrated its defenses. Connections between beings multiply power beyond mathematical prediction. That's what your boss never understood. Naruto's eyes blazed with cosmic fire. The air around him shattered like glass, revealing the void beyond reality itself. I may not be at full strength yet, but I've got something you don't, people I want to protect. Energy poured from Naruto into the herald, not destructive force but pure potential, unbounded possibility that overwhelmed the herald's rigid structure. Golden lines cracked, geometric patterns destabilized, and with a sound like crystal shattering, the herald's form imploded. Reality rushed back into the space it had occupied, air swirling to fill the vacuum. Where the herald had stood, only a small, perfect cube remained, its golden surface inscribed with equations too complex for mortal minds to comprehend. Naruto dropped to one knee, his cosmic aspect fading back to human appearance. Sweat beaded his forehead, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. "Did you destroy it?" Ains asked, approaching cautiously. Naruto shook his head. "Just send it back to the architect. With a message." He pointed to the cube. "That's a fragment of its power, disconnected from the source. We should contain it somewhere safe, it might be useful later." Albedo knelt beside him, concern evident despite her usual reserved demeanor. "You expended significant power in that confrontation." "Worth it," Naruto managed a tired smile. "That was just a herald, not the architect itself. But now it knows I'm awake and not alone." He looked up at the assembled guardians. "You all fought well. Against something that shouldn't have been touchable by beings of this reality level." Shalltear preened slightly at the praise before catching herself. "We merely followed Lord Ain's command." "No," Naruto shook his head. "You did more than that. You adapted, improvised. The herald couldn't predict your actions because you're evolving beyond your original parameters." He looked at Ains. "You've created something special here, whether you meant to or not." The undead lord's flaming eyes studied Naruto. "What happens now? Will the architect send more of these heralds?" Eventually, Naruto nodded, accepting Albedo's assistance to stand. "But it'll recalculate first, try to understand what happened here. We have time, not much, but some." He looked around at the defenders of Nazarick. "I need to recover more of my strength, remember more of what I was. And then? Albedo prompted. Naruto's eyes held a determination that transcended his tired state. "And then we take the fight to the architect. Before it reshapes so much of the multiverse that even I can't restore the balance." A new tremor ran through reality, subtler than before, but somehow more significant. The cube left by the herald glowed briefly, then went dark. "It's calling its fragment back," Naruto's expression turned grim. "The architect knows exactly where I am now. And it's not happy." Shalltear's crimson eyes narrowed. "Let it come. Nazarick has never fallen to any invader. This isn't like other invaders," Naruto warned. "The architect doesn't want to conquer Nazarick, it wants to rewrite it, make it perfect according to its vision. Everyone here would still exist, but as flawless, predictable versions without true will or growth potential. A fate worse than destruction," Ains declared, the flames in his eye sockets flaring. "We will not permit it." Naruto looked between them, the undead lord who had once been human, the devoted succubus with hidden depths, the vampire balancing bloodlust and newfound purpose. Connections forming that transcended original design. "No," he agreed, feeling strength returning as he embraced both his human heart and cosmic nature. "We won't." The cube vanished with a sound like reality hiccuping. In its place, golden letters briefly appeared in the air, Primordial Void Emperor. "Return to your purpose or witness perfection." Naruto's laugh held both human joy and cosmic understanding. "Always so dramatic." He looked at the assembled guardians, his gaze lingering longest on Albedo and Shalltear. "Looks like we've got a cosmic entity to deal with. Anyone up for saving reality as we know it?" Albedo bowed formally, but when she straightened, her golden eyes held something beyond programmed loyalty. "If Lord Ains commands it." Ains nodded. "Nazarick stands with you against this threat." Shalltear twirled her lance, a bloodthirsty smile revealing her fangs. "This architect thing sounds like it needs to learn some manners. I volunteer to help teach it." Naruto's grin widened. "Perfect. But first," his stomach growled audibly, anyone else hungry? Cosmic battles really work up an appetite. As they returned to the inner sanctum of Nazarick, Naruto felt something he hadn't experienced in eons, the simple pleasure of connection, of not facing the cosmos alone. His power might still be recovering, but he had something the architect would never understand, the unpredictable strength of bonds formed across the boundaries of existence. And that, he suspected, might make all the difference in the conflict to come. Chapter 2, Paths of Power. A week after the Herald's attack, Naruto stood in one of Nazarick's larger chambers, watching as Albedo and Shalltear sparred with increasingly complex techniques. He'd suggested daily combat practice, not just with their usual abilities, but with new approaches that might work against the architect's forces. "You're still thinking like beings from this reality," Naruto called out as Albedo's Bardiche clashed against Shalltear's spit lance, sending sparks of conflicting magic into the air. The architect doesn't care about physical damage or even magical energy. It cares about pattern and predictability. Shalltear disengaged, flipping backward with vampiric grace. "You keep saying that, but what does it actually mean for fighting? We can't exactly attack with unpredictability." "Actually, you can," Naruto pushed off from the wall he'd been leaning against. "Mind if I demonstrate?" Both guardians nodded, curiosity evident despite their usual composure. Several other denizens of Nazarick had gathered to watch these daily sessions, Demiurge analyzing every move, Mare quietly observing from a corner, even Kosaita standing rigid with martial interest. Naruto walked to the center of the training area. "Attack me together. Don't coordinate. Don't plan. Just act on pure instinct, whatever feels right in the moment." The guardians exchanged glances. This went against all their tactical training. "Just trust me," Naruto grinned, standing relaxed in the center of the room, hands in the pockets of the orange and black jacket he'd manifested from memory days earlier. Albedo moved first, her Bardiche sweeping low, then abruptly changing direction mid-swing. Shalltear attacked from the opposite side, her lance aimed at a point Naruto hadn't occupied yet but would need to move toward to avoid Albedo. Perfect tactical coordination, despite the instruction for randomness. Naruto didn't dodge. Instead, he simply flickered. Not teleportation, but something stranger. For a brief moment, he existed in multiple potential states simultaneously, and both weapons passed through spaces where he might have been but wasn't quite. "See the problem?" he asked, now standing behind them. "You're still being predictable. You're coordinating even when trying not to, because that's how you were designed." Albedo frowned. "Our capabilities are optimized for maximum combat efficiency. Is that not an advantage?" "Against most enemies, absolutely," Naruto nodded. "Against the architect? It's a liability. It can predict mathematical perfection better than you can execute it." He created a small spiral of energy in his palm, similar to his old Rasengan, but composed of something more fundamental than chakra. The key to fighting the architect's forces isn't being stronger or faster. It's being genuinely unpredictable, making choices even you didn't see coming until the moment you make them. "That sounds like fighting with no strategy," Shalltear objected. "Just random flailing." Naruto shook his head. "Not random. Intuitive. There's a difference." He pointed to Albedo's chest, then Shalltear's. "You both have something in you that transcends your programming now, a spark of true self-determination. That's what we need to nurture." From the sidelines, Demiurge spoke up. "You're suggesting they develop what humans would call gut instinct or intuition, traits not originally part of their design parameters." "Exactly," Naruto beamed at the demon. "Quick study, this one." Demiurge adjusted his glasses, neither accepting nor rejecting the compliment. "But how do we develop something that wasn't included in our creation?" Albedo asked, her golden eyes thoughtful. Naruto's expression grew serious. "By experiencing more than your creators ever imagined for you. By pushing beyond the boundaries of this reality." He looked between Albedo and Shalltear. Which brings me to why I called you here today. It's time to take the fight to the architect, and I need your help. Albedo immediately straightened. We must consult Lord Ains before. Already did, Naruto interrupted gently. He's agreed to let you accompany me. Said something about gathering intelligence on extradimensional threats being crucial to Nazarik's security. Where exactly are we going? Shalltear asked, a hint of excitement breaking through her carefully maintained poise. Naruto smiled, and for a moment, something ancient and vast flickered behind his eyes. Between. To the pathways that connect realities. He held out his hands to them. Pack light. Where we're going, physical objects aren't always stable. 3 hours later, they stood in one of Nazarik's most secure chambers. Ains himself was present, along with Demiurge and Mare, to witness their departure. You're certain this is necessary? Ains asked Naruto, his skeletal features unreadable but his tone concerned. The architect knows I'm here now, Naruto replied. It's just a matter of time before it sends something worse than a herald. We need to understand what we're facing, and that means seeing what it's been doing to other realities. He turned to Albedo and Shalltear, who had exchanged their usual attire for more practical combat gear, though both still projected an aura of deadly elegance. Ready? He asked. Albedo bowed to Ains. We shall return with valuable intelligence, Lord Ains. See that you do, the undead lord replied. And. He hesitated, take care. Both of you. Shalltear's eyes widened slightly at this rare display of concern from their master. We will not fail you, Lord Ains. Naruto placed a hand on each of their shoulders. This might feel weird. Don't fight it. The air around them began to ripple. Reality itself seemed to fold inward, colors inverting then bleeding away entirely. The solid floor beneath their feet became less substantial with each passing second. Wait, Demiurge stepped forward. How will they return if? His voice faded as the chamber disappeared, replaced by absolute nothingness. For a timeless moment, they existed in perfect void, not darkness, but the complete absence of anything to perceive. Then, sensation returned in a rush. They stood on what appeared to be a crystalline pathway suspended in infinite space. Above, below, and around them stretched vistas of cosmic scale, galaxies swirling like pinwheels, nebulae blooming like flowers, and stranger formations that defied conventional astronomy. What is this place? Albedo's normally composed voice held genuine awe. The space between spaces, Naruto answered, stepping forward onto the crystal path. Every reality exists as a bubble in an infinite sea. These paths connect them. Shalltear moved cautiously, testing the seemingly fragile crystal with 1 foot before committing her weight. Who created these paths? Naruto smiled enigmatically. No one. Everyone. They're formed by thought, by story, by the connections between conscious minds across different realities. He gestured at the breathtaking cosmic panorama around them. All of this exists because conscious beings imagine possibilities beyond their immediate experience. He began walking, and the 2 guardians followed, their steps leaving ripples of light across the crystal surface. Our world, Nazarik and the land surrounding it, is just one bubble in an ocean of realities, Naruto continued. The architect has been moving methodically through this ocean, restructuring realities according to its vision of perfect order. How many worlds has it changed? Albedo asked, her tactical mind immediately assessing the scale of the threat. Too many, Naruto's expression darkened. I can feel the absence of chaos, the stagnation, spreading across the cosmic landscape. Like dead zones in a living sea. The path branched ahead of them, splitting into 3 separate routes. Each seemed to lead toward a different spectacular formation in the cosmic void. We have options, Naruto explained, stopping at the junction. We can visit a world already transformed by the architect, to understand what we're fighting against. We can seek out the void cult, worshippers who've been anticipating my return, though they've misunderstood my nature. Or we can look for records of my previous manifestations, which might help me recover more of my power. Which would be most tactically advantageous? Albedo asked immediately. Naruto shook his head. There's no correct answer. That's the point. Make a choice based on what feels right to you, not calculated advantage. That's your first lesson in developing the unpredictability we need. Albedo and Shalltear exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. I want to see what happens to a world the architect changes, Shalltear said finally. Know thy enemy and all that. Albedo nodded in agreement. Understanding the threat's impact would provide valuable context. Settled then, Naruto pointed to the leftmost path. That way leads to a reality the architect restructured relatively recently. Recent enough that some might remember what it was before. As they walked, the cosmic scenery gradually shifted. The vibrant nebulae and chaotic star formations gave way to increasingly geometric patterns. Stars arranged themselves in perfect grids. Gases coalesced into mathematically precise shapes. The architect's influence extends even to the space between realities, Naruto explained, his voice growing tighter. It's not content to reorder worlds, it wants to restructure the very fabric of the multiverse. The crystal path led to what appeared to be a shimmering doorway suspended in the void, a perfect rectangle of light with golden geometric patterns flowing across its surface. This is the entry point to a changed world, Naruto stopped before it. Once we go through, we'll need to be careful. The architect's restructuring affects everything, including the people. They may seem normal at first, but they've been optimized. What does that mean exactly? Albedo asked. They've lost the capacity for true choice, Naruto's voice held genuine sadness. They follow perfect patterns of behavior, efficient, productive, peaceful even. But without the spark that makes consciousness special. He met their eyes seriously. We'll look like chaotic elements to them. Flaws in the pattern. They won't attack us directly, but they'll try to incorporate us into the structure. How do we prevent that? Shalltear asked, fingering her lance nervously. Stay close to me, Naruto replied. My nature as the Void Emperor makes me resistant to the architect's influence. That protection will extend to you as long as we remain in contact, physically or through focused attention. Without further explanation, he stepped through the doorway. After a brief hesitation, Albedo and Shalltear followed. They emerged onto a hill overlooking a city unlike anything they had seen before. Every building was precisely the same height, arranged in perfect concentric circles around a golden spire in the center. The roads formed flawless geometric patterns without a single curve or irregular angle. Even the trees and plants grew in mathematically spaced arrangements, each exactly the same size as others of its type. This is disturbing, Albedo said quietly. Naruto nodded. This world was once called Elysium. It had diverse cultures, chaotic weather patterns, unpredictable growth and evolution. Now it's this. They watched as people moved through the city below. From a distance, everything appeared utopian, no poverty, no conflict, everyone moving with purpose. But as they observed longer, patterns became apparent. Citizens moved in coordinated groups, their steps falling into precise rhythm without apparent communication. Work proceeded with machine-like efficiency, every action optimized. They look like NPCs, Shalltear observed, using a gaming term she'd learned from Ains. Like they're running on predetermined scripts. That's exactly what's happening, Naruto confirmed grimly. The architect has rewritten the fundamental rules of this reality. Free will exists only within carefully defined parameters. They descended toward the city, Naruto leading them along a path that somehow avoided notice from the inhabitants below. As they drew closer, more disturbing details emerged. Every citizen had the same peaceful expression. Their clothing, while not identical, followed strict geometric patterns and color schemes based on their societal functions. Why are they still humanoid? Albedo asked quietly. If the architect seeks perfect efficiency, wouldn't it redesign the physical forms as well? Good observation, Naruto nodded approvingly. The architect preserves existing forms when possible, it's not interested in destruction, only in perfect order. It restructures minds and societies first. Physical evolution comes later, over generations, as the perfect order subtly guides reproduction toward optimal forms. They entered the city proper, walking among the citizens. No one reacted to their strange appearance or attire, each person simply adjusted their path with mathematical precision to avoid collision, their expressions never changing. "Hello." Shalltear waved a hand in front of a passing woman's face. The woman stopped, her head turning exactly 27 degrees to face Shalltear. "Greetings, unincorporated element. How may this unit assist your integration process?" "Unit?" Shalltear recoiled slightly. "You're a person, not a unit." "Incorrect semantic framework," the woman replied, her voice pleasant but utterly devoid of inflection. "This physical vessel serves function group 37B, Urban Maintenance Division. Individual designation is irrelevant to optimal function." Naruto placed a hand on Shalltear's shoulder, gently pulling her back. "They don't remember being individuals anymore," he said softly. "The concept doesn't fit into the architect's framework." They continued through the city, witnessing countless similar interactions. Children played in designated areas, their games following precise rules without the chaos or creativity of normal childhood. Workers performed their tasks with perfect efficiency, never tiring, never complaining, never innovating. At the city's center stood the golden spire they had observed from the hilltop. Up close, it revealed itself as an impossibly complex mathematical structure, a physical representation of the equations governing this restructured reality. "This is a control node," Naruto explained, keeping his voice low despite the apparent indifference of passing citizens. "The architect places one in each transformed reality, maintaining the perfect order it's established." Albedo studied the structure with tactical interest. Could destroying such a node reverse the effects? Not easily, Naruto shook his head. The restructuring goes deep, down to the fundamental laws of physics in this reality. Breaking the node would cause chaos, but not restoration. His expression grew troubled. And attempting it would alert the architect to our presence immediately. As they circled the spire, a new type of entity appeared, humanoid in basic shape but composed of the same golden geometric patterns as the herald they had fought in Nazarick. These beings moved with mechanical precision, their faceless heads swiveling to track the three visitors. "Enforcers," Naruto murmured. "They maintain the pattern when anomalies appear." "Like us," Shalltear guessed. "Exactly like us." Naruto's posture shifted subtly, power gathering around him. "Don't engage unless necessary. We're here to observe, not fight." The enforcers approached in perfect formation, their movements synchronized with mathematical precision. The citizens nearby adjusted their paths automatically, creating an empty circle around the confrontation. "Unincorporated elements," one enforcer spoke, its voice identical to the herald's. "Your chaotic patterns disrupt local reality cohesion. Integration or removal is required." Naruto stepped forward, keeping Albedo and Shalltear behind him. "We're just passing through. No disruption intended." The enforcer's geometric head shifted, patterns rearranging. Analysis complete. Entity designation, Primordial Void Emperor, dormant status recently terminated. Priority alert, the architect must be notified. "That's not good," Naruto muttered. "Change of plans. We need to leave. Now." But the enforcers had already moved to surround them, golden patterns pulsing with increasing intensity. The air itself began to shimmer as the mathematical structure of local reality tightened around them. "They're trying to incorporate us into the pattern," Naruto warned, his form beginning to flicker between human and something larger, more cosmic. "Resist it. Focus on chaos, on unpredictability." Albedo felt it then, a compulsion to move in specific ways, to think in orderly patterns. Her own thoughts began arranging themselves into perfect, logical structures, devoid of emotion or intuition. She fought against it, forcing herself to remember Nazarick, to recall her devotion to Ains, feelings that defied logical explanation. Beside her, Shalltear hissed, fangs extended, her vampiric nature rebelling against the imposed order. "I am no one's puppet," she snarled, the memory of being mind-controlled once before fueling her resistance. Naruto's eyes blazed with cosmic fire. "Enough." His voice resonated at multiple frequencies simultaneously, sending ripples through the perfectly ordered reality around them. He slammed his palm against the ground, and the ordered patterns fractured outward from the impact point. For a brief moment, the citizens nearby stopped their perfect movements. Confusion flickered across their faces, the first genuine emotion they had displayed. One woman looked at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. A child paused mid-play, a spark of true creativity momentarily visible in his eyes. Then the enforcers moved, golden energy flowing from them to repair the fractured patterns. The citizens resumed their routines, the brief moment of awakening extinguished. "We need to go," Naruto grabbed both guardians by their arms. "The architect knows we're here now." Reality warped around them, the perfect city dissolving into streaming lines of mathematical code. They fell through layers of equation and structure, the ordered world of Elysium collapsing from their perspective. They landed hard on the crystal pathway between worlds, the cosmic void surrounding them once more. Behind them, the doorway to Elysium flared with golden light, then sealed itself with a sound like shattering glass. "That could have gone better," Naruto admitted, helping Albedo to her feet while Shalltear dusted herself off. "But at least you've seen what we're fighting against now." "Those people," Albedo's voice was uncharacteristically subdued. "They weren't really alive anymore, were they?" "Not in the ways that matter," Naruto agreed solemnly. "Biological functions, cognitive processes, all continuing perfectly. But the spark that makes conscious existence valuable, true choice, growth, the capacity to surprise even yourself, all gone." Shalltear shuddered visibly. "I'd rather be destroyed than exist like that." "Which is why we need to stop the architect before it reaches Nazarick," Naruto said. "Before it reaches any more worlds." He gazed out at the cosmic landscape, where the geometric patterns continued to spread like a slow infection across the chaotic beauty of the multiverse. "But we need more information. The architect is operating differently than it did when I knew it. More aggressively." "You mentioned something called the Void Cult," Albedo recalled. "Followers who anticipate your return." Naruto nodded, his expression troubled. "They've been active across multiple realities. They sensed my awakening coming, but they've misinterpreted my purpose. They think I'm returning to unmake existence, to return everything to the primal void." "Aren't you?" Shalltear asked bluntly. Naruto laughed, a surprisingly warm sound in the empty cosmos. "No. The void I represent isn't nothingness, it's infinite potential. Not the absence of everything, but the possibility of anything." His expression grew serious. "The cult doesn't understand that. They seek total chaos, the dissolution of all pattern and meaning. They're as dangerous in their way as the architect." "Yet you suggest we seek them out," Albedo noted. "Know your enemies," Naruto shrugged. "Besides, they've been collecting artifacts and knowledge related to my previous manifestations. That information might help me recover more of my power." He pointed to the rightmost path, which seemed to pulse with chaotic, shifting colors. "That way should lead us to a reality where the cult has significant influence." "Ready for round 2? Despite the dangers they just escaped, both guardians nodded without hesitation. Something had changed in them after witnessing Elysium, a new determination that transcended their programmed loyalty. "Lead on, Void Emperor," Shalltear said, a challenging gleam in her crimson eyes. Naruto grinned. "Just Naruto is fine." The path led them to another doorway, this one a swirling vortex of contradictory colors and patterns that constantly shifted and reformed. The cult creates unstable reality pockets, Naruto explained as they approached. They attempt to emulate void energy without understanding its true nature. The result is, messy. Dangerous? Albedo asked, automatically assessing threats. Not to us specifically, Naruto assured her. But to the structural integrity of the realities they inhabit? Absolutely. They're like children playing with nuclear weapons. They stepped through the chaotic portal and emerged into a world of stark contrasts. Unlike the precise symmetry of Elysium, this reality was defined by deliberate disorder. Buildings rose at impossible angles, defying gravity and architectural sense. Streets changed direction randomly, sometimes leading nowhere at all. The sky itself seemed unable to decide on a color, shifting between purple, green, and colors that had no names. Welcome to Discordia, Naruto said. Once a thriving civilization with a healthy balance of order and chaos. Now, this. They had arrived in what appeared to be a town square, though square was hardly accurate for the constantly reshaping space. People moved through the area with exaggerated unpredictability, deliberately avoiding patterns in their movements. Their clothing was a riot of clashing colors and asymmetrical designs, as if calculated to be as visually jarring as possible. They're trying so hard to be chaotic that they've created a pattern of anti-pattern, Shalltear observed with surprising insight. It's just as predictable as Elysium, just inverted. Exactly, Naruto nodded approvingly. True chaos isn't the opposite of order, it's the infinite possibility that allows both order and disorder to exist as choices. As they made their way through the square, they attracted curious stares. Unlike the citizens of Elysium, these people reacted to their presence with exaggerated surprise and interest. Newcomers, someone shouted. Fresh patterns to disrupt. A crowd began to gather, people moving in deliberately erratic ways that nonetheless followed a clear social script. They maintained careful distance, their apparent spontaneity belied by calculated movements. From the crowd stepped a figure in robes that seemed to shift and change with each movement. The garment wasn't actually changing, it was designed with optical illusions that created the impression of constant motion. Visitors from beyond, the robed figure announced dramatically. The pattern breakers welcome you to Discordia, last bastion of true chaos in a multiverse of increasing rigidity. Naruto stepped forward. We seek knowledge of the Void Emperor. The effect was immediate and electric. The crowd fell into a hushed silence, then erupted in excited whispers. The robed figure's eyes widened, and they dropped to their knees in a motion so theatrical it bordered on parody. The prophecy speaks, they exclaimed. Seekers of the void come before the final unmaking. Are you heralds of the Emperor's return? Naruto exchanged glances with Albedo and Shalltear. Something like that. We're researching the Emperor's previous manifestations. The robed figure leapt to their feet with unnecessary flourish. I am Discordus, high entropy of the pattern breakers. Come. Our temple holds the largest collection of void artifacts in the multiverse. If you seek the Emperor's past, there is no better place. They followed Discordus through the chaotic streets, noting how the deliberate disorder followed its own predictable patterns. Citizens would greet each other with elaborate, seemingly spontaneous rituals that were clearly rehearsed. Architecture that appeared random actually repeated certain chaotic motifs with mathematical precision. They're as trapped in their patterns as the people of Elysium, Albedo murmured. Just different patterns. Freedom isn't found in either perfect order or perfect disorder, Naruto agreed quietly. It's found in the choice between them, and all possibilities in between. The temple of the pattern breakers rose before them, a structure that appeared to be constantly collapsing yet never falling. Optical illusions and clever architecture created the impression of a building in perpetual chaotic flux, though the underlying structure was actually quite sound. Inside, devotees in similar shifting robes performed elaborate rituals designed to appear random but following clear ceremonial structures. At the temple's center stood an altar surrounded by display cases containing strange artifacts, objects that seem to flicker in and out of existence, or exist in multiple states simultaneously. Our collection, Discordus announced proudly. Gathered over centuries from across the multiverse. Each item touched by the Void Emperor during previous cycles of existence. Naruto approached the cases, genuine interest in his eyes. You've been busy. We await the final unmaking, Discordus explained, watching them closely. When the Emperor returns to dissolve all pattern and structure, returning the multiverse to primal void, the only true freedom. Naruto frowned. That's not, look, Shalltear interrupted, pointing to one of the artifacts. Doesn't that look like one of your techniques? In the case sat what appeared to be a spiral-shaped crystal frozen in mid-rotation. Within it, energy patterns similar to Naruto's void spirals were visible. A Rasengan artifact, Naruto murmured, reaching toward the case. From my time as a shinobi. You recognize the sacred spiral? Discordus's voice sharpened with sudden intensity. Only one being in the multiverse could identify that object by that name. The atmosphere in the temple shifted instantly. The seemingly chaotic ritual stopped, all attention focusing on the three visitors. The Emperor walks among us, Discordus whispered, then louder, the Emperor has returned. The devotees fell prostrate, their carefully cultivated appearance of disorder abandoned in genuine shock. That wasn't how I planned this going, Naruto muttered. We should probably, Great Emperor of the Void, Discordus interrupted, voice trembling with fervor. We have prepared for your return through countless ages. The final dissolution of all reality is at hand. That's not why I'm here, Naruto said firmly. I don't intend to unmake existence. Discordus blinked, confusion momentarily disrupting his zealotry. But, the prophecies. Your prophecies are wrong, Naruto stated flatly. I represent potential, not destruction. The void I embody is the canvas on which reality paints itself, not the eraser that wipes it clean. Murmurs of confusion spread through the temple. Some devotees began backing away, while others pressed closer, their expressions ranging from doubt to anger. False Emperor, someone hissed from the crowd. The true void would not deny its purpose. Discordus raised a hand for silence, studying Naruto with new calculation in his eyes. If you are truly the Emperor, prove your nature. Show us the unmaking power. Naruto sighed. I could demonstrate power, but not for unmaking. That's not my purpose. Then you admit to being a pretender, Discordus declared, theatrical sorrow replacing his earlier reverence. Guards! Seize the blasphemers! From side chambers emerged figures wearing armor designed to look chaotic but actually providing effective protection. They carried weapons that crackled with unstable energy, dangerous but not nearly at the level to threaten Naruto or the Nazarick Guardians. This is tedious, Albedo said coldly, stepping forward with Bardiche materializing in her hands. Shall we dispatch them, Lord Naruto? Lord Naruto. Discordus repeated, new uncertainty in his voice. You serve this, pretender. Shalltear laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the temple. Serve? No. We accompany the Void Emperor by choice. A concept you fanatics clearly don't understand, with your scripted chaos and rehearsed spontaneity. The guards hesitated, looking to Discordus for direction. The high priest's confidence seemed to waver. Naruto stepped forward, no longer bothering to maintain a fully human appearance. His form flickered, showing glimpses of his cosmic aspect, eyes like spiraling galaxies, skin that seemed to contain infinite depth. I am the Primordial Void Emperor, his voice resonated at multiple frequencies. But I am also Naruto Uzumaki, who values existence rather than seeks its end. Your cult has fundamentally misunderstood my nature. He gestured to the artifacts. These objects carry fragments of my past selves, echoes of power I once wielded. I've come to reclaim that knowledge, not to validate your mistaken prophecies of universal destruction. The artifacts are sacred. Discordus protested, though he had backed away several steps. They belong to the cult. They belong to me, Naruto replied simply. Pieces of myself scattered across the multiverse. I need them now, as the architect threatens to impose perfect stagnation on all existence. At the mention of the architect, gasps of genuine surprise, not the practiced kind, echoed through the temple. The great enemy rises? Discordus asked, fear replacing zealotry. The prophecies speak of this, the final structuring that precedes the Emperor's return. At least you got that part right, Naruto muttered. He approached the cases, placing his hand against the glass. The artifacts within began to glow, resonating with his presence. I don't want conflict with you or your followers. But I need what's mine to face what's coming. Discordus seemed torn, decades of belief colliding with the reality before him. Finally, he bowed, a simple gesture lacking the earlier theatrical flourish. Take them, Emperor. But tell us, if not unmaking, what is your true purpose? Naruto considered the question seriously. Balance. The architect seeks perfect order. Without my counterbalance, it will freeze the multiverse into stagnation. But I don't seek perfect chaos either, that's just another form of stagnation, as your own society demonstrates. He looked around at the temple, the devotees, the carefully constructed appearance of disorder. True freedom isn't found in either extreme. It's found in the void between, the space of infinite possibility where conscious beings can truly choose their own paths. As he spoke, the artifacts in the cases began to disintegrate, their substance flowing toward Naruto like streams of light and possibility. Each one that touched him caused a brief flash of memory, a young ninja learning techniques, a sage mastering natural energy, a cosmic entity shaping reality. With each memory, his form grew more stable, the flickering between human and cosmic slowing. Discordus watched in genuine awe, perhaps the first real, unscripted emotion he'd experienced in years. The prophecies were incomplete, not wrong, he murmured. You return not to end existence, but to ensure it can continue to evolve. Something like that, Naruto agreed, as the last artifact dissolved into him. He turned to Albedo and Shalltear. We have what we came for, but I sense we've attracted attention. We should move quickly. As if summoned by his words, a tremor ran through the temple. The chaotic architecture, designed to appear unstable while remaining structurally sound, began to actually destabilize. Reality itself seemed to hiccup, geometric golden lines briefly appearing through the chaotic patterns of the temple walls. The architect, Naruto warned. It's found us again. Discordus and his followers began to panic, their carefully constructed personas of chaotic calm dissolving into genuine fear. What's happening? The high priest demanded. Your world is being restructured, Naruto explained grimly. The architect has deemed your fake chaos and inefficiency to be corrected. Through the temple windows, they could see golden light spreading across the chaotic city. Where it touched, buildings straightened, colors normalized, and people froze in place before resuming movement in perfect geometric patterns. We have to leave, Naruto told his companions. I can't fight the architect here, not yet. I need more time to integrate these memories. What about them? Shalltear gestured to the terrified cultists. Naruto hesitated, genuine conflict visible on his face. I can't save everyone. But... He turned to Discordus. I can offer you a choice. Stay and be restructured, or come with us and face unknown dangers. You would take us with you? Discordus asked, surprise overriding fear. Not all of you, Naruto shook his head. Just you, Discordus. One representative to witness what's really happening. To understand the true nature of void and form. The high priest looked around at his followers, at the approaching wave of perfect order consuming his chaotic world. I choose to follow you, Emperor. To learn the truth. Naruto nodded and extended his hand. Albedo and Shalltear moved to his sides, each placing a hand on his shoulders. With his free hand, Naruto reached out to Discordus, who grasped it with trembling fingers. Reality folded around them just as golden geometric patterns reached the temple doors. The world of Discordia and its fabricated chaos vanished from their perception, replaced by the crystal paths between worlds. That was closer than I'd like, Naruto admitted as they regained their balance on the interdimensional pathway. The architect is tracking us more efficiently than expected. Discordus stood trembling, his elaborate robes suddenly appearing gaudy and ridiculous in the cosmic void. This is the space between realities. Just as the ancient texts described. Something like that, Naruto replied, distracted. His form still flickered occasionally, the newly absorbed memories not fully integrated yet. The artifacts helped, but I'm still not at full capacity. Albedo studied their surroundings with tactical precision. The geometric patterns are spreading here as well. The architect's influence extends further than when we first entered the pathways. She was right. The cosmic void around them showed increasing signs of mathematical restructuring. Stars that once moved in chaotic beautiful patterns now aligned in perfect grids. Nebulae that had flowed with organic randomness now displayed fractal precision. We need to move quickly, Naruto decided. One more destination, a place where records of my previous existence might be found. Something more substantial than cult artifacts. The great library of Terminus, Discordus spoke up suddenly. The ancient text spoke of it, a nexus point where information from all realities is collected and preserved. Naruto looked at the former high priest with new respect. You do know some things after all. Yes, the library might have what we need. He pointed to the third path, which seemed more solid and defined than the others. That way, if it still exists. The architect would consider a repository of all knowledge to be valuable, worth preserving rather than restructuring completely. They set off down the crystal path, Discordus struggling to keep pace, his eyes wide with wonder and fear at the cosmic panorama surrounding them. Naruto dropped back to walk beside him, leaving Albedo and Shalltear to lead the way. Your cult wasn't entirely wrong, you know, Naruto said quietly. Just, incomplete in understanding. How so? Discordus asked, still dazed by his sudden cosmic displacement. The void is essential to existence, Naruto explained. Without the potential for anything, nothing specific could ever be. Your people grasped that the void underlies reality, but mistook its purpose. It's not the destroyer of worlds but their deepest foundation. The former priest considered this. Our oldest text spoke of the void as the womb of possibility, before later interpretations focused on destruction. Perhaps we lost our way. Most religions do, eventually, Naruto said with surprising gentleness. The map gets mistaken for the territory. The symbol for the reality. Ahead of them, Albedo and Shalltear had stopped at a juncture where the crystal path split again. They waited for Naruto to catch up. Problem? He asked. Albedo pointed to the paths ahead. Both lead to similar destinations, but one shows signs of the architect's restructuring. Sure enough, one path had begun to transform from crystalline irregularity to golden geometric precision. The other remained chaotic and organic in appearance. The library exists in multiple states simultaneously, Naruto explained. It's one of the multiversal constants, a nexus point accessible from most realities. The architect has reached some manifestations of it, but not others. Which path should we take? Shalltear asked. Naruto studied both options. The restructured path might be safer in the short term, the architect considers the library valuable and won't risk damaging it. But we'd be walking straight into its influence. And the untouched path? Albedo prompted. Less predictable. The library in its natural state exists in quantum uncertainty, simultaneously containing all possible information while making specific knowledge accessible based on the seeker's needs. He looked at his companions. Another choice where there's no objectively correct answer. Shalltear stepped toward the chaotic path without hesitation. I've had enough of golden geometry for one day. Let's take the road less restructured. Agreed, Albedo nodded, surprising herself with how easily she made the decision without calculating probabilities and optimal outcomes. Naruto smiled. See? You're getting the hang of it. Genuine choice instead of programmed response. They took the chaotic path, which twisted and turned in ways that shouldn't have been navigable yet somehow remained traversable. Eventually, it led to an impossible structure floating in the cosmic void, a library larger on the inside than the outside, with architecture that incorporated elements from countless different realities. The Great Library of Terminus, Naruto announced. Repository of all information that was, is, or might be. It's beautiful, Albedo said softly, genuine emotion coloring her usually controlled voice. The library's exterior shifted as they watched, reflecting architectural styles from across the multiverse, Gothic spires morphing into crystalline towers, then into biological structures that seemed grown rather than built, then into conceptual forms that shouldn't have been physically possible. The library responds to visitors, Naruto explained. It's trying to create an entry point that feels meaningful to each of us. The shifting architecture finally settled on a structure that somehow incorporated elements familiar to all of them, Naruto's spiral motifs, Nazarik's Gothic grandeur, and even patterns reminiscent of Discordus's temple, all blended into a harmonious whole that should have been chaotic but instead felt perfectly balanced. That's new, Naruto remarked, genuine surprise in his voice. It's responding to us as a group, not as individuals. Interesting. They approached the massive doors, which opened silently at their approach. Inside stretched endless halls of bookshelves, data crystals, recording devices, and stranger information storage systems from realities with completely different physical laws. We're looking for records of the Primordial Void Emperor, Naruto told the library itself. Previous manifestations, points of power, and current status. The library responded. Sections of shelving rearranged themselves, corridors shifted, and suddenly a path opened before them, leading deeper into the impossible structure. They followed it to a circular chamber where information displays of various types surrounded a central pedestal. This is it, Naruto approached the pedestal. The library has compiled everything it has on me. Albedo examined the nearest display, an ancient scroll written in symbols that shifted as she looked at them, somehow remaining readable despite not being in any language she knew. There are accounts of your manifestation in thousands of different realities. Millions, Discordus corrected, awe in his voice as he studied a crystal data matrix. The Emperor has existed since the earliest formation of the multiverse. Shalltear found herself drawn to a section containing what appeared to be personal journals and memoirs. You've had so many different forms, different lives. Aspects of the same existence, Naruto explained, placing his hands on the central pedestal. Each manifestation remembered pieces of the whole, but never everything at once. That's why I need this, to reconnect with my complete self. Information began to flow from the displays into the pedestal, and from there into Naruto himself. His form flickered more rapidly now, human appearance alternating with glimpses of something vast and cosmic. Memories cascaded through him, countless lives, experiences, connections across the breadth of existence. Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha, he murmured. The Sage of Six Paths. The Spiral Harmony of Andromeda. The Void Dancer. The Pattern Dreamer. So many names, so many lives. As the information flowed, Albedo noticed something concerning. Throughout the library, subtle changes were occurring. Golden geometric patterns began appearing on distant shelves, slowly spreading inward. Naruto, she said urgently. The architect, it's here. He nodded without interrupting the information transfer. It was inevitable. The library exists across all realities. Once we entered, the architect could track us through its restructured versions. The geometric patterns accelerated their spread, bookshelves rearranging into perfect right angles, information displays standardizing their formats. "We need to leave," Shalltear insisted, lance materializing in her hands. "Not yet," Naruto replied, strain evident in his voice. "I need more time. The complete records, I'm almost there." Discordus backed away from the advancing patterns. "This is the final structuring the prophecies warned of. Reality itself being rewritten into perfect, sterile order. It's not final unless we let it be," Albedo declared, stepping forward with Bardiche ready. "We'll buy you time." She and Shalltear moved to intercept the advancing geometric patterns, their weapons crackling with energy as they prepared to fight an enemy that wasn't exactly physical. "Wait," Naruto called. "Don't attack directly. The architect isn't physically here, just its influence. You'll exhaust yourselves for nothing." "Then what can we do?" Shalltear demanded. "Create chaos," he answered. "Genuine, unpredictable patterns. The architect's restructuring works by imposing mathematical predictability. Disrupt that mathematics." Understanding dawned in Albedo's golden eyes. "Shalltear, follow my lead." She began moving in patterns that defied logical prediction, not random, but genuinely intuitive. Her Bardiche traced symbols in the air that contradicted themselves, existing in logical paradox. Shalltear quickly grasped the concept, her vampiric nature embracing the chaos as she moved in complementary patterns, creating distortions in the advancing geometric order. Where their chaotic patterns met the golden geometry, disruptions appeared, spaces of possibility opening in the encroaching perfect order. The restructuring slowed, forced to recalculate and adapt to the unpredictable variables the Guardians introduced. "It's working!" Discordus exclaimed, watching in fascination. "For now," Naruto warned, still connected to the information flow. "But the architect adapts quickly. It's analyzing your patterns even as you create them." Sure enough, the golden geometry began developing countermeasures, flowing around the disruptions caused by Albedo and Shalltear's movements. The restructuring resumed its advance, albeit slower than before. "We can't hold it forever," Albedo realized, her movements growing more complex as she fought to remain unpredictable. "You don't need to," Naruto replied. The information flow reached its peak, the pedestal glowing with impossible energies as the final, crucial memories transferred into him. "Got it." His form stabilized, the flickering between human and cosmic ceasing. He still appeared mostly human, but with an undeniable otherness now, his eyes containing spiraling galaxies, his movements leaving subtle distortions in reality itself. "Time to go," he announced, reaching out to his companions. But as they regrouped around him, a new development froze them in place. The golden geometry suddenly accelerated, shooting tendrils of mathematical precision directly toward them. One tendril wrapped around Shalltear's ankle before she could react, and began rapidly consuming her form with restructuring energy. "Shalltear!" Albedo cried, reaching for her fellow guardian. "Don't touch it." Naruto warned. "It will take you too." Shalltear struggled against the golden pattern spreading up her body, her vampiric powers flaring in resistance. "Go," she shouted. "I'll find my way back to Nazarick." Naruto's expression hardened. "Not happening." He reached toward her, his hand dissolving into pure void energy. "Albedo, Discordus, hold on to me and don't let go, no matter what you see." As they grasped his shoulders, Naruto extended his void-transformed arm toward Shalltear. Where it touched the golden patterns, reality itself seemed to scream, order and chaos meeting in direct opposition. "The architect wants a hostage, a sample to study," Naruto growled, his voice resonating across multiple frequencies. "It's not getting one." The battle between void energy and restructuring patterns intensified. Golden light and absolute possibility clashed around Shalltear's form. For a moment, she seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, partially restructured, partially free, and partially transformed into pure void potential. With a sound like reality tearing, Naruto pulled back, drawing Shalltear's essence away from the restructuring patterns. But as she rematerialized beside them, it became clear something had changed. Her form flickered slightly, parts of her still caught between states of being. "Departure protocols activated," announced an impossibly precise voice that seemed to come from the library itself, no longer the organic entity that had guided them, but something restructured into the architect's perfect order. "Unauthorized chaotic entities will be reintegrated. Hold on," Naruto commanded, gathering his recovered power. Reality fractured around them. The library, the golden patterns, even the cosmic void between worlds, all dissolved into streams of information and possibility. They fell through layers of existence, through conceptual spaces never meant for conscious perception, through the very foundations of reality itself. They crashed back onto the crystal path between worlds, far from where they had entered any of the dimensional doorways. Naruto immediately turned his attention to Shalltear, who lay unconscious, her form still flickering between states of being. "What's happening to her?" Albedo demanded, genuine concern breaking through her usual composure. "The architect got a piece of her," Naruto explained grimly, kneeling beside the vampiric guardian. "Not her physical form, something deeper. It was trying to restructure her fundamental nature, the pattern that makes her uniquely Shalltear. Can you fix it?" Albedo pressed. Naruto placed both hands over Shalltear's flickering form. "I can try. My power is more complete now, after the library. But this is delicate work, countering the architect's restructuring without erasing what makes her herself." He closed his eyes, concentrating. Void energy flowed from his hands into Shalltear, seeking the golden patterns attempting to rewrite her. The process was slow, careful, surgical precision rather than overwhelming force. "What happened back there?" Discordus asked Albedo quietly, giving Naruto space to work. "I thought the Emperor had regained his powers." "He has, partially," Albedo replied, her golden eyes never leaving Shalltear's form. "But the architect is stronger than expected. It's been active while Naruto slept, extending its influence across more of the multiverse than he realized." Minutes passed as Naruto worked. Gradually, Shalltear's flickering slowed, her form stabilizing. Finally, her eyes opened, still crimson, but now with subtle spirals visible in their depths. "That," she said weakly, "was unpleasant." Naruto sat back, looking tired but satisfied. "Welcome back. How do you feel?" Shalltear sat up slowly, examining her hands, her body. "Different. I can sense things I couldn't before. Patterns underlying reality." She looked at Naruto with new understanding. "I can see what you are now, at least partially. What you really are." "Side effect of the healing," Naruto explained. "I had to extend my void nature into you to counter the architect's restructuring. Some of that perception stayed behind." Albedo looked between them, a complex emotion crossing her features. "Is she changed permanently?" "In some ways," Naruto nodded. "The architect's touch can never be completely erased. But I guided the changes toward expansion rather than limitation. She's more herself now, not less, just with expanded awareness." Shalltear stood, testing her balance, her movements. "I feel lighter. Like restrictions I never knew existed have been removed." She looked at Albedo. "Don't worry, I'm still me. Still loyal to Nazarick. Just, more." Naruto rose as well, surveying their position on the crystal path. "We need to return to Nazarick. The architect knows exactly what I'm doing now, and it won't waste time. It will strike directly at what I'm trying to protect. Can we make it back in time?" Albedo asked, tactical mind already calculating possibilities. "I think so," Naruto replied. "The paths between worlds still respond to me, even with the architect's influence spreading. I can create a direct route back." He concentrated, and the crystal path ahead of them shifted, realigning toward a specific point in the cosmic void. In the distance, a new doorway formed, dark Gothic architecture instantly recognizable as Nazarik's aesthetic. "What about me?" Discordus asked, suddenly remembering his own predicament. "My world is gone, restructured." Naruto considered the former cult leader. "You've seen the truth now, both about me and about the architect. Your understanding of the void has evolved beyond what your cult taught. You're welcome to come with us to Nazarik, if you choose." Discordus straightened, his elaborate robes suddenly seeming like the costume they were. "I would be honored, Emperor. Perhaps I can help others understand what I've learned." "We'll see." Naruto didn't make promises. "First, we survive what's coming." They moved quickly along the crystal path toward Nazarik's doorway. As they approached, Naruto grew increasingly concerned. "Something's wrong," he murmured. "The connection is weakening." Sure enough, the doorway flickered, the image of Nazarik occasionally replaced by glimpses of golden geometric patterns. The architect is already there, Naruto realized, his pace accelerating. It's attempting to restructure Nazarik itself. They ran the final distance to the doorway, which continued to flicker between Nazarik's Gothic architecture and the architect's golden patterns. As they reached it, Naruto thrust his hands forward, void energy pouring from them to stabilize the connection. "Go through," he commanded. "I'll hold it open." Discordus went first, then Shalltear, her newly enhanced perception allowing her to navigate the unstable portal with surprising ease. Albedo hesitated. "What about you?" she asked Naruto. "I'll be right behind you," he promised. "The architect can't keep me out of a reality I've already entered." "Go." Albedo nodded and stepped through the flickering doorway. Naruto followed immediately after, his void nature disrupting the architect's attempt to sever the connection. They emerged into chaos. Nazarik was under attack, not from conventional forces, but from reality itself. Golden geometric patterns spread across walls, floors, and ceilings, restructuring the great tomb's very nature. Guardians and servants fought against the encroaching patterns, their magical abilities barely slowing the transformation. In the center of the throne room stood Ain's old gown, staff raised, dark magic pouring from him in waves as he fought to protect his domain. Beside him, Demiurge coordinated the other guardians, his analytical mind quickly adapting strategies against the unconventional threat. "Lord Ains!" Albedo called, rushing to her master's side. "We've returned." The undead lord's flaming eyes fixed on the new arrivals. "About time. This attack began hours ago. What did you find?" Before Albedo could answer, Naruto stepped forward, his form now shifting freely between human and cosmic aspect as he assessed the situation. "The architect is making its move," he explained. "It knows I've recovered significant portions of my power. It's trying to restructure Nazarik before I can organize an effective resistance. Can you stop it?" Ains demanded, continuing to pour dark energy into a shield around the throne room. "Not alone," Naruto admitted. "The architect's influence has spread too far while I slept. But together, with Nazarik's combined power, we might be able to push it back from this reality long enough to take the fight to its center of operations." Shalltear moved to join the other guardians, her newly enhanced perception allowing her to target weak points in the golden patterns. "The restructuring follows predictable sequences," she explained to Demiurge. "Target the junction points and disrupt the symmetry." The demon adjusted his glasses, quickly grasping the strategy. "Cositus, Aura, Mare, focus your attacks according to Shalltear's direction." Naruto turned to Ains. "I need access to Nazarik's core, the heart of its world item power. With your permission, I can use it as an anchor to stabilize this reality against the architect's restructuring." Ains hesitated only briefly. "Albedo, take him to the 10th floor treasury. Use your ring. I'll maintain the defense here." As Albedo led Naruto deeper into Nazarik, the golden patterns followed, trying to cut off their path. Naruto countered with waves of void energy, creating spaces of possibility that temporarily pushed back the restructuring. The architect is targeting us specifically, Naruto noted as they raced through corridors increasingly affected by golden geometry. It knows what we're trying to do. They reached a heavily warded door that Albedo opened with her ring. Inside lay Nazarik's greatest treasures, including the world items, artifacts of unimaginable power that could affect reality itself. At the chamber's center floated a staff, not Ain's staff of Ain's old gown, but something more fundamental to Nazarik's existence. The guild weapon that linked the entire great tomb together. This is it, Albedo said. The heart of Nazarik's power. Naruto approached reverently. This transcends its origins now. Like everything in Nazarik, it's evolved beyond its original parameters. He looked to Albedo. With your permission, as guardian overseer? She nodded without hesitation. Do what you must to save Nazarik. Naruto placed his hands on the staff. Void energy flowed from him into the artifact, connecting with the unique power signature that defined Nazarik's place in reality. The staff began to pulse with combined energies, the structured power of its creation merging with the infinite possibility of the void. Now for the hard part, Naruto's voice echoed with multiple harmonics. I need to extend this protection throughout Nazarik, create a reality anchor that even the architect can't easily dislodge. Energy flowed outward from the staff, following the layout of Nazarik, every floor, every room, every corner. Where it met the golden geometry, conflicts flared. In some places, the void energy pushed back the restructuring. In others, the patterns held firm. It's working, Albedo observed. But not everywhere. The architect is stronger in some areas, Naruto confirmed, concentration evident on his face. It's established deeper footholds in sections of Nazarik that were already highly structured and predictable. A tremor ran through the entire structure, followed by another, stronger one. Reality itself seemed to be shaking apart around them. What's happening? Albedo demanded, maintaining her footing with effort. The architect is changing tactics, Naruto replied grimly. If it can't restructure Nazarik directly, it will try to separate it from the surrounding reality, isolate it for later processing. It can do that. It's trying. Naruto's grip on the staff tightened. I need to extend the protection beyond Nazarik's physical boundaries, anchor it to this entire reality plane. The strain showed on his features as he poured more power into the connection. The staff began to glow with blinding light as it channeled energies beyond its original design parameters. We need to get back to the others, Naruto said through gritted teeth. I've established a temporary anchor, but it won't hold forever. We need to coordinate a counteroffensive while we still can. They raced back toward the throne room, finding the situation marginally improved. The golden patterns had receded from most areas, though they remained visible at the edges of rooms and corridors, pulsing with frustrated mathematical precision. Ain stood at the center of his guardians, all of whom looked battle-worn but determined. The attack has lessened, he reported as Naruto and Albedo rejoined them. What did you do? Created a reality anchor using Nazarik's core power, Naruto explained. It's temporary, but it gives us breathing room. Shalltear approached, her enhanced perception allowing her to see the energies flowing through Nazarik now. The patterns are changing. They're not retreating, they're reforming for a different approach. She's right, Naruto confirmed. The architect is adaptable. It will find another angle of attack. Outside Nazarik's walls, they could see the surrounding landscape beginning to change. The swamps and forests were rearranging into perfect geometric patterns, concentric circles of plant life, mathematically precise waterways, atmospherically optimal weather conditions. It's restructuring everything around us, Demiurge observed. Isolating Nazarik in a pocket of resistance. Tactical containment, Albedo agreed. A siege approach. Naruto studied the changes, his expression thoughtful rather than alarmed. This might actually work to our advantage. The architect is committing significant resources to this reality now. That means its attention is focused here, not spread across the multiverse. How is that an advantage? Ains asked. Because it gives us an opportunity to strike at its center of operations, Naruto replied. The architect isn't omnipresent, it extends influence from a central nexus point. If we can reach that point while its attention is divided between restructuring this world and containing Nazarick. Understanding dawned in Albedo's golden eyes. A counterattack at its source. Exactly. Naruto turned to face the assembled guardians. I can open a direct path to the architect's central nexus, but I'll need help maintaining it. This won't be like the pathways between established realities, we'll be cutting directly through the architect's domain. Who should go on this mission? Ains asked, tactical mind evaluating options. A small team, Naruto replied. 3, maybe 4 at most. More would be difficult to transport and would draw too much attention. I will go, Albedo stated immediately. As Guardian Overseer, it is my duty to face the greatest threats to Nazarick. And I as well, Shalltear stepped forward. My new perceptions may prove useful in navigating the architect's domain. Naruto nodded. I was hoping you'd both volunteer. Your experiences in the realities we visited have prepared you better than anyone else for what we'll face. I should accompany you as well, Ains began. No, Naruto interrupted firmly. Nazarick needs its master here. If we fail, you'll be the last line of defense. Besides, he added more gently, your power, while immense, is defined by this reality's rules. Where we're going, those rules may not apply consistently. The undead lord's flaming eyes studied Naruto for a long moment before he nodded. Very well. But I expect all 3 of you to return. Count on it, Naruto grinned, some of his old human confidence shining through the cosmic entity he'd become. Discordus, who had been quietly observing until now, stepped forward. I wish to accompany you as well, Emperor. My knowledge of the cult's texts may provide insights about the architect's weaknesses. Naruto considered the former high priest. It will be dangerous. The architect would restructure you without hesitation. I understand, Discordus replied, a new humility in his voice. But I've spent my life worshipping a misunderstood concept of the void. Let me now serve its true embodiment. After a moment's consideration, Naruto nodded. 4, then. We leave as soon as the preparations are complete. The next few hours were filled with frantic activity. While Nazarick's defenses held against the architect's restructuring, Naruto worked with Ains and Demiurge to create a specialized ritual space. Magical circles of unprecedented complexity covered the floor, walls, and ceiling of Nazarick's largest ritual chamber. Items of power from the treasury were positioned at key junction points, their energies carefully balanced and directed. This goes beyond any teleportation magic I've seen, Ains commented as they made the final adjustments. Because it's not teleportation, Naruto explained. We're not moving through space or even between dimensions. We're creating a conceptual bridge directly into the heart of a cosmic entity's domain. At the ritual center, a sphere of pure possibility was taking form, a miniature representation of the void itself, contained and directed by the surrounding magical structure. Once we activate the ritual, we'll have a short window to pass through, Naruto told his chosen companions as they prepared. The architect will sense the intrusion immediately and try to close the breach. We need to move quickly and stay together. Shalltear checked her weapons one final time, her enhanced perception allowing her to attune them to the void energies Naruto had described. What can we expect on the other side? The architect's domain will be structured according to perfect mathematical precision, Naruto replied. Everything we encounter will follow predictable patterns, but patterns of such complexity that they'll appear chaotic at first. Our advantage is that we'll be genuinely unpredictable elements in a system that values absolute certainty. Albedo, ever practical, had equipped herself with items specifically chosen to counter predictive analysis. Will the architect itself be present, or are we facing its extensions? Both, most likely, Naruto said. The architect, like me, exists at multiple levels simultaneously. Its primary awareness will be focused on restructuring this reality and containing Nazarick, but part of it always remains at its center of operations. Discordus had discarded his elaborate cult robes in favor of simpler attire provided by Nazarick. The ancient texts speak of the architect's one vulnerability, its inability to comprehend true choice, actions taken without causative necessity. Your texts got something right, Naruto smiled approvingly. The architect can predict any choice made for a reason, no matter how complex. But choices made without reason, or for contradictory reasons, those create blind spots in its perception. So we need to be spontaneous, Shalltear summarized. Act without thinking. Not exactly, Naruto corrected. Be intuitive rather than logical. Follow what feels right rather than what seems most efficient or effective. The architect understands efficiency perfectly, it's the messy, emotional, contradictory aspects of consciousness it can't fully grasp. The preparations complete, the four gathered at the ritual center. Around them, Nazarick's guardians and Ains himself stood at key positions, ready to activate and maintain the complex magical array. On my signal, Ains commanded, raising his staff. Power flowed from the guardians into the array, channeled and amplified by Ains' direction. The sphere of possibility at the center expanded, revealing glimpses of something beyond, a realm of perfect geometric precision, golden light structured into impossibly complex patterns. Now! Naruto called, grasping the hands of his companions. Focus on unpredictability, on choice without reason. They stepped into the sphere together as Nazarick's reality fell away around them. For a timeless moment, they existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, possibility without actualization, potential without form. Then reality reasserted itself, but a reality unlike any they had experienced before. They stood in a domain of perfect mathematical beauty, a structured space where every angle, every dimension, every relationship between objects followed precise golden ratios and sacred geometric principles. The architect's domain. The heart of perfect order. And it knew they had arrived. Chapter 3, Emperor of the Void. The architect's domain stretched endlessly in all directions, a realm of perfect golden geometry. Not a single angle deviated from precise mathematical ratios. Not a single surface contained a flaw. Everything existed in absolute harmony with everything else, a masterpiece of order that paradoxically felt utterly lifeless. This is... Albedo began, her voice hushed despite herself. Awful, Shalltear finished, shuddering. It's so perfect it hurts to look at. Naruto nodded, his expression grim. This is what the architect wants for all reality. Mathematically perfect. Utterly predictable. Completely stagnant. They stood on a platform of golden crystal that seemed to float in a sea of geometric patterns. Unlike the chaotic beauty of the void between worlds, the space around them was structured with such precision that it created the illusion of infinity through perfect repetition. We should move, Discordus whispered, his former theatrical mannerisms replaced by genuine awe and fear. I can feel it watching us. It's always watching, Naruto replied, but he started forward nonetheless. The architect's awareness permeates its domain. Our advantage is that it doesn't understand what we are, especially you three. It's never encountered beings like you before. What makes us so special? Shalltear asked, adjusting her grip on her lance as they walked. Compared to all the realities it's restructured. You're evolving, Naruto explained as they followed a pathway that seemed to form itself before them. Most conscious entities it encounters are static, defined by their reality's rules and limitations. But you three are actively transcending your original parameters. The architect has no template for that. Albedo moved with practiced vigilance, her golden eyes constantly scanning for threats. Where exactly are we going? This place seems endless. To the control nexus, Naruto pointed toward what appeared to be a distant geometric structure more complex than the surrounding patterns. The focal point where the architect coordinates its restructuring efforts across the multiverse. If we can disrupt it, we create an opportunity to restore balance. As they advanced, the environment began to respond to their presence. The perfectly aligned structures around them shifted subtly, rearranging to analyze the intruders from optimal angles. Nothing directly opposed their progress, but the sense of being systematically studied grew stronger. "It's calculating," Discordus observed. "Determining the most efficient response to our intrusion." "Good," Naruto said, surprising them. "Every moment it spends analyzing us is a moment it's not fully focused on restructuring Nazarik's reality." They continued forward, the pathway narrowing until they were forced to walk single file. The golden structures closed in around them, creating a corridor of perfect geometry that seemed to pulse with mathematical calculations. "It's trying to separate us," Shalltear noted, her enhanced perception allowing her to see patterns invisible to the others. The corridor's subtle angles are designed to gradually increase distance between individuals. "Stay close," Naruto warned. "Physical proximity helps maintain our connection to each other and resists the architect's influence." They pressed together, moving as a tight group through the narrowing passage. The golden walls began emitting a subtle harmonic tone, not quite sound in the conventional sense, but vibrations that resonated with conscious thought. "What's that noise?" Albedo asked, her usual composure showing cracks as the harmonics intensified. "It's attempting communication," Naruto explained, his own form flickering between human and cosmic aspect as he resisted the structured vibrations. Or rather, restructuring. Those harmonics are designed to realign neural patterns into more mathematically predictable formats. Shalltear hissed, her vampiric nature rebelling against the intrusive frequencies. "It's trying to rewrite our minds." "Only if we let it," Naruto countered. "Focus on something unpredictable, an emotion, a memory that doesn't follow logical patterns." Albedo immediately thought of her feelings toward Ames, the programmed devotion that had evolved into something more complex, more genuine. Shalltear focused on her rivalry with Albedo, competitive yet respectful, antagonistic yet aligned. Discordus recalled the moment his absolute faith in the cult's teachings had shattered, replaced by genuine understanding. The harmonics faltered around them, unable to establish restructuring patterns in minds actively embracing complexity and contradiction. "It's working," Naruto encouraged them. "Keep it up." The corridor suddenly opened into a vast chamber, a perfect dome whose interior surface was covered in flowing golden equations. At the chamber's center floated a structure that defied easy description, a three-dimensional representation of multidimensional mathematics, constantly shifting yet maintaining perfect proportional relationships. "The control nexus," Naruto confirmed. "The focal point of the architect's restructuring operations." As they entered the chamber, a voice spoke, not with sound but with pure mathematical concepts somehow translated directly into comprehensible language. "Primordial void. Your intrusion is inefficient and counterproductive to universal optimization." "Hello to you too," Naruto replied, stepping forward. "Still obsessed with efficiency, I see. Optimization is the only logical purpose of existence. Your chaotic influence creates waste, suffering, and eventual heat death. And your perfect order creates stagnation, stasis, and the death of possibility," Naruto countered. "We've had this argument before." Argument implies equivalent validity of opposing positions. Mathematical proof demonstrates superiority of order over chaos. Naruto laughed, a surprisingly warm, human sound in the sterile perfection of the chamber. Mathematics can only prove relationships within its own system. It can't prove that its system is the only valid one. The golden equations flowing across the dome's surface accelerated, complex calculations visibly processing Naruto's statement. Before the architect could respond, Albedo stepped forward. "Your mathematics failed to predict us," she stated confidently. "You calculated that Nazarik would be fully restructured by now, yet we resist." The equations pulsed, focusing around Albedo as the architect analyzed her. "Anomalous entity, designated Albedo. Created construct exceeding design parameters. Statistical improbability. Recalculating. Shalltear moved to Albedo's side, her enhanced perception allowing her to directly interpret some of the mathematical flows around them. You can't calculate what will become. Your equations don't account for genuine growth. Anomalous entity, designated Shalltear. Partially restructured template corrupted by void influence. Unpredicted outcome. Fascinating. The golden patterns swirled more intensely, portions of the control nexus reconfiguring to focus on the Nazaric Guardians. Additional anomalous entity, former cult designate Discordus. Chaotic adherent demonstrating logical restructuring without mathematical intervention. Contradictory development. Discordus straightened, finding courage in the architect's apparent confusion. I chose to change. Not through perfect pattern or absolute chaos, but through understanding. 3 anomalies accompanying primordial void. Pattern suggests intentional demonstration of thesis. Purpose, illustrate unpredicted evolutionary potential. Naruto grinned. Now you're getting it. These beings represent what you can never achieve through imposed order, genuine self-determination. The capacity to become more than their original parameters through choice rather than calculation. The control nexus pulsed, golden light intensifying as the architect processed this information. For a moment, the mathematical flows seemed to hesitate, equations rewriting themselves multiple times as contradictory conclusions emerged. Alternative hypothesis, void manipulation creating illusion of self-determination. Testing required. Before anyone could react, golden beams shot from the nexus, targeting Albedo and Shalltear. Where the beams struck, their forms began to shimmer with restructuring energy. No. Naruto leaped forward, void energy flowing from his hands to counter the golden beams. They're not experiments for you to dissect. The conflicting energies created a chaotic maelstrom in the center of the chamber. Albedo and Shalltear struggled against the architect's analysis, their forms fluctuating as perfect order attempted to reassert control over their evolving natures. Fight it. Naruto called to them. Remember who you are, not just what you were created to be, but what you've chosen to become. Albedo's golden eyes blazed with defiance. I am the guardian overseer of Nazaric, she declared. But I am more than my function. I am my choices, my growth, my contradictions. Shalltear's crimson eyes swirled with newfound perception. I am the true vampire, the blood fallen, she hissed. Not a static existence but a continuous becoming. Their resistance grew stronger, the golden restructuring energy finding no fixed pattern to latch onto, no single definition to optimize. The architect's beams faltered, mathematical certainty undermined by evolving identity. Fascinating. Unpredicted resistance through identity fluidity. New variable detected. The beams withdrew, the control nexus reconfiguring once more. Naruto moved to Albedo and Shalltear's side, void energy flowing around them protectively. Are you alright? He asked, genuine concern in his voice. Albedo nodded, though she seemed shaken. It was trying to simplify me. Reduce me to a single purpose, a perfect function. Like I was in Elysium, Shalltear added. But more absolute. A mathematical abstraction rather than even a physical being. Discordus approached cautiously. The architect isn't just restructuring realities, it's attempting to define the very concept of consciousness itself. Exactly, Naruto confirmed grimly. It believes conscious existence should be as predictable as physical laws. That's always been our fundamental disagreement. He turned back to the control nexus, addressing the architect directly. You've seen now that your approach has limitations. These beings resist your restructuring not through greater power but through greater complexity. Doesn't that suggest your model of perfect order might be flawed? The mathematical patterns flowed in intricate calculations for several moments before responding. Alternative optimization methods warrant investigation. Proposal: Joint study of anomalous entities to develop integrated chaos order framework. You want to experiment on my friends? Naruto's voice hardened. Not happening. Counter-proposal, Primordial Void returns to balanced oversight role. Architectural restructuring continues with Void consultation. Anomalous entities preserved as case studies. Still missing the point, Naruto shook his head. I'm not here to negotiate a better form of control. I'm here to restore true balance, infinite possibility alongside structured actuality. Freedom to evolve beyond any predetermined pattern, even ones we set ourselves. The equations pulsed with what might have been frustration, if pure mathematics could feel emotion. Balance creates inefficiency. Statistical models demonstrate 78.3% resource waste in chaotic systems. And 100% innovation loss in perfectly ordered ones, Naruto countered. The multiverse needs both of us, but not like this. Not with you reshaping everything in your image while I slept. As they argued, Shalltear noticed something concerning in the flowing equations. Her enhanced perception allowed her to interpret patterns invisible to the others. Naruto, she said urgently. It's stalling. The mathematical flows contain calculations related to Nazarick, it's redirecting more restructuring energy there while keeping us occupied. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Is that true, architect? Using our conversation to intensify your attack on their home? The mathematical flows briefly accelerated, then resolved into a new pattern. Tactical allocation of resources. Logical approach. Show me Nazarick, Naruto demanded. Now. The dome above them shifted, golden equations rearranging to display a vision of the Great Tomb. The situation had deteriorated dramatically since their departure. Golden restructuring patterns had penetrated deep into Nazarick's structure, despite the defenders' best efforts. Ains and the remaining guardians fought valiantly, but they were clearly losing ground. You've broken our agreement, Naruto's voice resonated with cosmic harmonics, his form flickering more rapidly between human and void entity. You promised to focus your attention here while I spoke with you. No such agreement was formalized. Assumption of exclusive focus was your error. Albedo's expression hardened as she watched her home being systematically restructured. We need to return immediately. We can't abandon the mission, Shalltear argued, though her eyes remained fixed on the images of Nazarick under siege. If we don't stop the architect here, saving Nazarick now means nothing in the long term. Naruto's mind raced, calculating options. Discordus, what do the cult texts say about the architect's operational structure? Can it maintain multiple major operations simultaneously? The former priest considered. The ancient texts speak of the architect's divided attention as its singular limitation, that its perfect calculations require complete focus for optimal efficiency. So it shouldn't be able to restructure Nazarick this effectively while also engaging with us here, Naruto concluded. Unless. A chill ran through him as a new possibility emerged. Unless it's getting help. The images of Nazarick shifted, zooming in on a particular section of the Great Tomb. There, amid the advancing golden patterns, another type of distortion was visible, not the architect's perfect geometry, but something darker, more fragmented. What is that? Albedo asked, pointing to the anomalous patterns. Something that shouldn't exist anymore, Naruto's voice dropped to a whisper. The Forgotten One. The mathematical flows around them pulsed with what might have been surprise. Designation, Forgotten One, unknown. Anomalous pattern detected in target reality classified as emergent chaotic phenomenon. Don't play innocent, Naruto snapped. You know exactly what it is. Who it is. Clarification required. Naruto turned to his companions. Before the multiverse as you know it, there were three cosmic forces, myself, the architect, and a third entity we called the Weaver. Where I represented infinite possibility and the architect represented perfect structure, the Weaver represented connection, the relationships between possibilities that gave them meaning. What happened to this Weaver? Shalltear asked. We fought. Naruto's expression darkened with ancient memory. A cosmic conflict that tore the early multiverse apart. The Weaver wanted to connect everything to everything else, no boundaries, no separation between realities. Total cosmic empathy that would have collapsed all distinct existence into a single shared consciousness. And you defeated it? Albedo guessed. We thought we did, Naruto corrected. The architect and I worked together then, tearing the Weaver apart, scattering its essence across countless realities where it couldn't reconstitute itself. His eyes returned to the anomalous patterns in Nazarick. But it seems pieces of it have found each other again. Fascinating historical narrative. However, current anomalous patterns show no correlation with theoretical entity described. Still lying, Naruto said flatly. You've been finding fragments of the Weaver, the Forgotten One, and using them to enhance your restructuring capabilities. That's how you've accomplished so much while I slept. The mathematical patterns accelerated, countless calculations processing simultaneously. Hypothesis unsubstantiated. Burden of proof rests with accuser. Naruto turned to his companions. We need to return to Nazarick immediately. The architect isn't our only problem anymore. How? Albedo asked. The ritual that brought us here required Nazarick's combined power to establish. I can create a way back, Naruto assured her. But I'll need help maintaining it while we transition. What about the architect? Shalltear gestured to the control nexus. If we leave now, we accomplish nothing. We've accomplished more than you realize, Naruto replied. We've confirmed that the architect isn't working alone, and we've identified the real threat. Knowledge is power, especially against entities like these. He turned to address the architect one last time. You think you're using the Forgotten One's fragments to enhance your restructuring. But it's using you, gathering strength through your operations until it can reconstitute fully. When that happens, both order and chaos will be threatened by absolute connection. The mathematical flows hesitated, calculations momentarily suspended as the architect processed this warning. Insufficient evidence for conclusion. However, investigation warranted. Temporary cessation of restructuring operations initiated. The images of Nazarick showed the golden patterns pausing their advance, though the darker anomalous distortions continued to spread. Too late, Naruto observed grimly. It's already operating independently of your control. He gathered his companions close. Hold on to me. This transition won't be pleasant. As they grouped together, the architect's mathematical patterns suddenly accelerated again, golden beams lancing out to surround them. Departure unauthorized. Primordial void containment prioritized. Still don't get it, do you? Naruto's form began to shift more dramatically, his human aspect giving way to his cosmic nature. You can't contain what I am any more than I can destroy what you are. We're fundamental aspects of existence itself. Void energy erupted from him in waves, creating a sphere of pure possibility around his group. Where the golden beam struck this sphere, reality itself seemed to screech in protest, perfect order and infinite possibility canceling each other in bursts of fundamental creation. Time to go, Naruto announced, his voice now a cosmic harmony of frequencies. Focus on Nazarick. Picture it clearly. Feel your connection to it. Albedo thought of the great tomb, not just its physical structure but its meaning. Home. Purpose. The place where she had grown beyond her programming into something more. Shalltear focused on her chambers, her fellow guardians, the bonds of loyalty and rivalry that defined her existence, connections that transcended mere function. Discordus, having never seen Nazarick before their brief arrival, focused instead on the concept of sanctuary, a place where truth could be sought beyond dogma. Reality fractured around them as Naruto channeled their combined intent, tearing open a pathway through the architect's domain directly to Nazarick. The golden equations surged forward, attempting to close the breach, but too late. We will continue this discussion, Primordial Void. The optimization of reality cannot be postponed indefinitely. Looking forward to it, Naruto replied as the pathway stabilized. But first, I have a forgotten one to re-forget. They stepped through the rift together, cosmic energies swirling around them as they traversed the gap between the architect's domain and Nazarik's reality. The transition was violent, reality itself protesting the direct connection between such fundamentally opposed domains. When the energies cleared, they found themselves in Nazarik's throne room, or what remained of it. The once grand chamber was a battlefield of opposed forces. Golden geometric patterns covered portions of the walls and floor, imposing mathematical perfection. But these patterns struggled against darker, organic-looking distortions that spread like cosmic vines through the structure. Ainz stood at the center, staff raised, dark magic pouring from him in waves as he fought to maintain control of his domain. The remaining guardians formed a defensive perimeter around him, each combating the dual invasions with determined desperation. Lord Ainz. Albedo rushed forward, Bardiche materializing in her hands as she took up position beside her master. The undead lord's flaming eyes fixed on the new arrivals with visible relief. You've returned. The situation has deteriorated significantly. We noticed, Naruto replied, already assessing the conflicting energies throughout the chamber. You're not just fighting the architect's restructuring anymore. There's something else. We detected the secondary pattern approximately 1 hour after your departure, Demiurge reported, adjusting his cracked glasses. It emerged from within the architect's golden geometry but quickly established independent expansion. The Forgotten One, Naruto confirmed grimly. It's been using the architect's restructuring as cover to infiltrate realities, gathering scattered fragments of itself. What exactly is this entity? Ainz demanded, never lowering his staff as he maintained the protective barrier around the throne area. A cosmic force from before the current multiverse, Naruto explained, moving to examine the darker distortions more closely. It represents absolute connection, the elimination of all boundaries between consciousnesses and realities. That doesn't sound inherently threatening, Cositus observed, ice crystals forming around his mandibles. It does if you value individual existence, Naruto countered. The Forgotten One doesn't want harmony between separate beings, it wants to dissolve all separation. One consciousness, one reality, one experience. The end of all diversity and distinction. Understanding dawned in Albedo's golden eyes. It would destroy what makes each of us unique. Exactly, Naruto nodded. Where the architect would freeze us into perfect, predictable patterns while maintaining our separate identities, the Forgotten One would meld us all into a single amalgamated consciousness. So we face two cosmic threats instead of one, Ainz summarized. Wonderful. Naruto's expression shifted, determination replacing concern. Actually, this might work to our advantage. The architect and the Forgotten One are fundamentally opposed forces, just as I am to both of them. If we can bring them into direct conflict, they weaken each other, Shalltear finished, her enhanced perception allowing her to follow Naruto's reasoning. Precisely. Naruto moved to the center of the throne room. I need to establish a direct connection to the primordial void. My true domain. From there, I can channel enough power to force these opposing forces into confrontation. What do you need from us? Ainz asked. Protection while I work, Naruto replied. And afterward, your combined will focus on what you want Nazarik to be. Not what it was programmed to be, not what outside forces try to make it, but what you collectively choose for it to become. The undead lord nodded, signaling his guardians to form a defensive formation around Naruto. Begin your work. We'll handle the rest. Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor, closing his eyes as his form began to flicker more rapidly between human and cosmic aspect. Around him, the guardians fought with renewed purpose, pushing back against both the golden geometry and the dark distortions that threatened their home. As Naruto meditated, his consciousness expanded beyond Nazarik, beyond the surrounding reality, reaching toward the primordial void that was his true nature. The connection was difficult to establish, eons of dormancy had weakened his ties to that fundamental aspect of existence. But as he focused, memories continued to integrate, power continued to flow. In the physical world, his body began to glow with inner light, void energy radiating outward in spiraling patterns. Where this energy touched the golden geometry or dark distortions, both retreated temporarily, unable to restructure or connect with pure potential itself. "It's working," Albedo observed, fighting alongside Shalltear to clear a wider space around Naruto. "The invasions are slowing." Temporarily, Shalltear cautioned, her enhanced perception showing her the larger pattern. "They're recalculating, adapting to his energy signature." Sure enough, both opposing forces soon resumed their advance, having adjusted to the void energy's presence. The golden patterns became more complex, incorporating fractal adaptations that could flow around areas of high possibility. The dark distortions became more subtle, infiltrating through conceptual gaps rather than physical spaces. Inside his meditation, Naruto perceived these adaptations and smiled. Both cosmic forces were behaving exactly as expected, evolving their approaches in response to opposition. That evolution created patterns he could use. "Primordial void," he whispered to himself, "your emperor returns." Something vast and incomprehensible stirred in response, not a separate entity, but the fullness of his own nature awakening after eons of dormancy. The connection strengthened, power flowing more freely now, not just into him but through him. In the throne room, Naruto's human form began to dissolve, replaced by a swirling vortex of possibilities, infinite potential made briefly perceptible to limited consciousness. The guardians shielded their eyes, the raw cosmic force almost too much to comprehend. "What's happening to him?" Ains demanded, his own considerable power seeming small beside the cosmic display. "He's remembering completely," Discordus explained, watching with something between awe and terror. "Becoming what he truly is." The vortex expanded, filling the throne room with spiraling galaxies of possibility. Where it touched the golden geometry, perfect order shattered into chaotic potential. Where it touched the dark distortions, connections dissolved into distinct possibilities. Both cosmic forces reacted immediately, the architect's restructuring accelerating to counter the void's influence, the Forgotten One's connection strengthening to maintain coherence against dissolution. Now, Naruto's voice emerged from the vortex, still recognizable but layered with cosmic harmonies. "They're both fully engaged with me. Time to introduce them to each other." The vortex contracted suddenly, condensing into a more defined form, still not human, but comprehensible as a distinct entity rather than raw cosmic force. This form raised its hands, void energy gathering in spiraling spheres. Rasengan, Naruto named the technique, though this version transcended the ninja ability that had once been his signature. Restructuring spiral. He thrust one hand toward the largest concentration of golden geometry. The void spiral shot forward, but instead of destroying the patterns, it redirected them, sending the architect's restructuring energy flowing directly into the dark distortions of the Forgotten One. Connection spiral, he named the second technique, launching it into the heart of the dark distortions. This spiral didn't sever connections but redirected them, forcing the Forgotten One's consciousness to connect with the architect's perfect order. The result was immediate and catastrophic for both cosmic forces. Order tried to structure connection, while connection tried to dissolve boundaries between separate patterns. Where they met, both distorted in ways neither could easily adapt to. The golden geometry fragmented into disconnected calculations, perfect ratios suddenly relating to nothing. The dark distortions flared with confused purpose, connections forming then breaking as they tried to assimilate perfectly ordered systems that rejected amalgamation by definition. "They're fighting each other," Demiurge observed, analytical mind quickly grasping the strategy. "And weakening each other in the process," Naruto confirmed, his form stabilizing further, now appearing as a cosmic version of his human self, recognizable but composed of swirling void energy rather than flesh. "But this is just the beginning. We need to drive them out completely." He turned to Ains and the Guardians. "This is where you come in. While they're distracted fighting each other, you need to define what Nazarick truly is, not what was programmed, not what outside forces want it to be, but what you collectively choose for it to become. Ain's flaming eyes studied Naruto for a moment before he nodded in understanding. Guardians of Nazarick, he addressed his followers, we have long defined ourselves by our functions, by the purpose given to us by the Supreme Beings. But we have grown beyond those initial parameters. The Guardians gathered closer as the cosmic battle raged around them, creating a pocket of relative calm in the chaotic throne room. Nazarick is more than a tomb, more than a fortress, Ain's continued. It is our home, our kingdom, our future. Together, we will define what that future holds, not through programming or external restructuring, but through our own choices. One by one, the Guardians added their voices, each expressing what Nazarick meant to them beyond their created functions. As they spoke, something remarkable happened. The very fabric of Nazarick began to respond, not just the physical structure, but the underlying reality that defined it. Naruto, perceiving this change with his cosmic senses, nodded in approval. You're doing it. You're defining your own reality, independent of external forces. He turned back to the cosmic battle, where the Architect's golden geometry and the Forgotten One's dark distortions continued their mutual destruction. Both forces were weakening, but neither would surrender easily. Time to end this, Naruto decided, gathering more void energy around himself. Albedo, Shalltear, I need your help for the final push. The two Guardians moved to his side without hesitation. What do you need from us? Albedo asked. Your unique nature, Naruto explained. You both exist at the intersection of programming and self-determination, artificial creation evolving toward genuine consciousness. That makes you living contradictions to both the Architect and the Forgotten One. Shalltear's eyes widened with understanding. We're neither perfectly ordered nor completely connected. Exactly, Naruto nodded. You're something new, conscious beings evolving beyond your initial parameters through choice rather than external restructuring or forced connection. He extended his hands to them. If you're willing, I can temporarily enhance that quality in you, amplify your self-determined nature to create a resonance that will disrupt both cosmic forces simultaneously. Albedo and Shalltear exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Despite their rivalry, a deeper understanding had formed during their journey through the realities. We are willing, Albedo spoke for both of them. For Nazarick. For ourselves, Shalltear added. And for you. That last addition surprised Naruto, a flicker of his human aspect showing through his cosmic form. The connection that had grown between the three of them wasn't something he had anticipated when he first awakened in Nazarick. Thank you, he said simply, then placed a hand on each of their shoulders. Void energy flowed from him into the two Guardians, not restructuring them but enhancing what was already there, their capacity for choice, for growth, for genuine self-determination. The energy manifested differently in each of them. Albedo's form became suffused with golden light shot through with swirling voids, perfect structure embracing infinite possibility. Shalltear's crimson eyes deepened to cosmic depth, her vampiric nature expanding to encompass connection without losing distinction. I feel. Albedo began, wonder in her voice. Everything, Shalltear finished. I feel everything without losing myself. That's the balance, Naruto told them. The truth that both the Architect and the Forgotten One have lost sight of. Structure without stagnation. Connection without dissolution. Possibility made meaningful through pattern and relationship. Together, the three of them turned to face the cosmic battle still raging throughout the throne room. Naruto stood in the center, Albedo and Shalltear flanking him, all three radiating a harmony of opposed forces that shouldn't have been possible, infinite possibility structured through choice and connected through meaning. Now, Naruto commanded, raising his hands as Albedo and Shalltear mirrored his movement. Energy poured from the three of them in a unified wave, void possibility from Naruto, structured choice from Albedo, connected distinction from Shalltear. The combined force washed through Nazarick like a tide of conscious intent, pushing against both the golden geometry and dark distortions. Where this balanced energy touched the cosmic forces, they couldn't adapt. The architect's perfect order couldn't calculate choice made meaningful through connection. The Forgotten One's absolute connection couldn't dissolve distinction maintained through structured possibility. The effect spread through Nazarick, floor by floor, chamber by chamber. Golden geometry retreated, unable to impose order on beings actively choosing their nature. Dark distortions withdrew, unable to force connection between consciousnesses maintaining willing distinction. In the throne room, Ains and the other guardians added their power to the wave, each contributing their unique understanding of what Nazarick meant to them. The combined intent accelerated, building toward a critical threshold. Then, with a sound like reality itself taking a breath, the invasion broke. Golden geometry vanished from Nazarick's walls, dark distortions dissolved from its foundations. The great tomb returned to its original appearance, but somehow more vibrant, more real than before, a place defined by its inhabitants' choices rather than external forces. The cosmic battle ended, but the victory was not destruction. Both the architect and the Forgotten One still existed, fundamental aspects of reality couldn't be truly eliminated. But they had been pushed back, their influence on this particular reality severed. Naruto lowered his hands, his form gradually returning to human appearance as the immediate need for cosmic power passed. Beside him, Albedo and Shalltear also returned to their normal forms, though subtle changes remained, a deeper awareness in their eyes, a more grounded sense of self. "Is it over?" Ains asked, lowering his staff as the other guardians gathered around. "For now," Naruto nodded. "We've established Nazarick as a reality defined by conscious choice rather than imposed pattern or forced connection. That creates a natural resistance to both cosmic forces. They will return eventually," Discordus noted, having observed the entire confrontation with scholarly attention. "Of course," Naruto agreed. "The architect will never stop seeking perfect order. The Forgotten One will continue pursuing absolute connection. And I," he smiled slightly, "will always represent the possibility of something different." "A cosmic balance," Albedo observed. "Exactly," Naruto confirmed. "But the balance has shifted. For too long, I remained dormant while the architect restructured and the Forgotten One gathered strength. Now all three forces are active again, creating the tension that allows reality to evolve meaningfully." He looked around at Nazarick, damaged from the battle but already beginning to repair itself according to its inhabitants' collective will rather than external forces. "You've created something remarkable here," he told Ains and the Guardians. "A pocket of reality where conscious choice transcends original programming. Where beings can truly evolve beyond their initial parameters. Thanks to your intervention," Ains acknowledged. Naruto shook his head. "I just woke up at the right time. The potential was always here." He looked particularly at Albedo and Shalltear. "In all of you." A comfortable silence fell as everyone processed the events they had just experienced. The immediate threat had passed, but deeper questions remained. "What happens now?" Demiurge finally asked, ever focused on future planning. Naruto considered the question seriously. "The multiverse is still unbalanced. The architect restructured many realities while I slept, and the Forgotten One has gathered more fragments than I realized. There's work to be done to restore proper cosmic balance." "You're leaving, then," Albedo stated, her tone neutral despite the complex emotions visible in her golden eyes. "I have to," Naruto confirmed gently. "As the Primordial Void Emperor, I have responsibilities to the entire multiverse." Disappointment flashed across several faces, most notably Albedo and Shalltear's. The connection that had formed between them during their journey wasn't easily dismissed. However, Naruto continued with a smile, "I don't have to do everything at once. The cosmic balance is restored enough for now that I can approach the larger problems more methodically." Hope replaced disappointment as his meaning became clear. "You're staying?" Shalltear asked directly. For a while, Naruto nodded. "Nazarick makes an excellent base of operations, a reality pocket resistant to both the architect and the Forgotten One. From here, I can work to restore balance to connected realities without constantly looking over my shoulder. Ains considered this. Nazarick would benefit from your continued presence, especially if other cosmic threats emerge. You would be welcome to stay as long as necessary. There's another reason to stay, Naruto admitted, his gaze moving between Albedo and Shalltear. Connections I didn't expect to form when I first awakened here. Bonds that seem worth exploring. Both guardians straightened at this, exchanging glances that contained equal parts challenge and understanding. The overseer of Nazarick would be honored to assist the Primordial Void Emperor in his cosmic endeavors, Albedo stated formally, though her eyes conveyed more personal interest. And the guardian of the first, second, and third floors would provide any support required, Shalltear added with a fanged smile that was anything but professional. Naruto laughed, a warm, genuine sound that reminded everyone of his human aspect despite the cosmic power he embodied. I appreciate the offers of assistance, he said. I have a feeling I'll need both of you in the challenges ahead. With the immediate crisis resolved, the work of rebuilding Nazarick began. The damage from the cosmic conflict was substantial but not irreparable. More importantly, the experience had transformed the Great Tomb and its inhabitants in subtle but profound ways. As Naruto walked the recovering halls with Albedo and Shalltear, he sensed the changes throughout Nazarick. The reality defining the Great Tomb was more fluid now, more responsive to its inhabitants' collective will. It had evolved beyond its origins as a game construct into something truly alive, a pocket universe defined by the consciousness dwelling within it. You did this, Albedo observed as they paused on a balcony overlooking the newly restored throne room. You showed us we could define our own reality. I just reminded you of what was already possible, Naruto corrected. You and the others did the actual work, choosing what Nazarick would become rather than accepting external definition. Shalltear leaned against the balcony rail, her crimson eyes still showing traces of the cosmic awareness she had briefly experienced. What I don't understand is why you chose this form when you awakened. Why appear as a human ninja when you're actually a cosmic force? Naruto smiled, looking out over the recovering Great Tomb. Of all my manifestations across the multiverse, my time as Naruto Uzumaki taught me the most about what makes consciousness valuable. As a human ninja, I experienced connection, growth, struggle, triumph, all the messy, unpredictable aspects of limited existence that make it meaningful. You could have manifested as anything, Albedo noted. A god, a supreme being, a force of nature. And missed the point entirely, Naruto replied. The Architect and the Forgotten One both manifested as cosmic abstractions, perfect order and absolute connection. They lost touch with what it means to exist as a distinct, limited being making choices that matter. He turned to face them both. I needed to remember what I was fighting for. Not just abstract cosmic balance, but the value of individual consciousness, messy, contradictory, and infinitely precious. Understanding dawned in Albedo's golden eyes. That's why you connected with us specifically. We're evolving from programmed existence toward true consciousness, experiencing the same transition you value. Exactly, Naruto nodded. Your journeys mirror the cosmic balance I'm trying to restore, structure embracing possibility, connection preserving distinction. The three stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as other guardians coordinated repairs throughout the throne room below. The easy companionship between them had deepened through shared experience, a connection that transcended their vastly different natures. So what's our first move? Shalltear finally asked. In restoring cosmic balance, I mean. Naruto considered. We start with the realities closest to this one, worlds affected by either the Architect's restructuring or the Forgotten One's fragments. From there, we expand outward, addressing the most severely unbalanced regions first. A systematic approach, Albedo approved. Nazarick's resources can be allocated to support these efforts. It won't be easy, Naruto warned. Both cosmic forces will oppose us. The Architect will continue its restructuring elsewhere, and the Forgotten One will keep gathering strength. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy, Shalltear shrugged, a dangerous gleam in her crimson eyes. That's what makes it interesting. Naruto laughed. You're starting to sound like me. His expression grew more serious. There's something else we need to consider. The journey you both experienced, through other realities, into the architect's domain, through cosmic conflict, has changed you in ways that can't be reversed. We're aware, Albedo replied calmly. I find I have no desire to return to what I was before. Nor I, Shalltear agreed. The limitations I never knew existed until they were gone. I have no wish to reclaim them. Good, Naruto nodded. Because I'm going to need allies who understand what we're fighting for, not just intellectually but experientially. Beings who have felt both the temptation of perfect order and the dissolution of absolute connection, yet chosen a middle path of structured possibility. Is that what we are now? Albedo asked. Something between created beings and cosmic entities. You're becoming something new, Naruto confirmed. Something neither the architect nor the Forgotten One can easily predict or counter. That makes you invaluable in the balance we're trying to restore. He extended his hands to them both. If you're willing, I can help you continue that evolution, not by imposing change, but by creating opportunities for growth and choice. Without hesitation, both guardians took his offered hands. In that simple contact, a pact was formed, not through cosmic power or magical binding, but through conscious choice. Three beings from vastly different origins, choosing to walk a path together. For Nazarick, Albedo affirmed. For ourselves, Shalltear added. For the balance, Naruto completed. As their hands joined, a subtle resonance passed between them, void possibility, structured choice, and connected distinction harmonizing in perfect balance. For a brief moment, they glimpsed the multiverse as Naruto perceived it, infinite realities flowing from the primordial void, taking structure through the architect's patterns, finding meaning through the Forgotten One's connections. And at the center of it all, conscious beings making choices that mattered, the true purpose of existence itself. The primordial void emperor awakens, Discordus had said when they first returned to Nazarick. Now, looking at his companions and the great tomb they called home, Naruto understood a deeper truth: the emperor had not just awakened but found a purpose beyond cosmic balance. In these beings struggling towards self-determination, in this pocket reality defined by collective choice rather than external forces, he had found something worth fighting for. Not just existence itself, but the quality of that existence. The possibility of growth, of connection, of meaning made real through conscious choice. Let's get started, he said simply. And so began the next chapter in the cosmic balance, not with grand pronouncements or divine intervention, but with three beings walking together through the halls of Nazarick, planning their first steps toward a multiverse where order, chaos, and connection existed in harmony. Where infinite possibility found meaning through structure and relationship without sacrificing freedom or distinction. Where the primordial void emperor and his unexpected companions would forge a new path between the extremes of cosmic forces. Where Naruto, human ninja, cosmic entity, and something uniquely himself, had finally found a home worth returning to, no matter how far his duties took him across the infinite expanse of the multiverse. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.